The Marine fleet and the Rocks pirate approached, and the two sides faced each other on the sea. Just when Shiki and Newgate were about to fight, there was a sudden wave on the sea where Marine was. Two Marine warships floated from the sea to the surface, and their hulls were coated with a film. What? Isn't it? Shiki and Newgate paused, and their faces became serious in surprise. There are actually a large number of Marines lurking on the coated warships. Captain Rocks, we have fallen into a trap. Marine seems to be well prepared. Newgate did not look back and said solemnly, HMPH, a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals will grab the gold in the sky first. Rocks showed a ferocious smile and glanced at the Marine soldiers with ferocious eyes. Before he set off, he already felt that this operation would not be easy to succeed. Sengoku and Zephyr's preparedness was not enough to explain anything. This was the same posture they encountered any enemy. The key thing is that this lurking Marine is obviously aware of Rocks' pirates' actions. But now is not the time to think about that. Rocks said to Yulo, come on too. Then he stopped talking and stood quietly. Okay. Yulo heard the words and nodded in response. Marine's current formation was indeed beyond Rocks' expectations, causing him to change the battle plan he had just made. Yulo looked at Rocks and stood motionless, showing no intention of taking action. He took 2 quick steps and came to Shiki and Newgate. The 2 warships floating up from the sea each have a Marine Vice Admiral on board, plus the 4 Vice Admirals behind Sengoku and Zephyr. At this time, the Marine lineup already has 6 Vice Admirals and twice as many Marine soldiers as the Rocks pirate crew. The originally high-spirited pirates, seeing this situation, felt like a bucket of cold water being poured down on them, and they couldn't help but want to retreat. Shiki, Newgate, let me do it. Yulo pondered for a moment and said firmly. In terms of high-level combat power, Rocks pirate has the advantage, but the number of people under its command is only half that of Marine. If this continues, this crew will be wiped out. Maybe Rocks usually treats them as cannon fodder, but now they are also a very important force. In this case, let's clear out the minions before the war begins. Oh? What are you going to do? Shiki and Newgate were a little surprised. They could vaguely guess what it was. Clear the soldiers first. Yulo said simply and directly with a solemn expression. But Sengoku on the opposite side also has Conqueror's Haki. He can completely use Haki to offset the shock. Newgate frowned slightly and said uncertainly. I will take action to contain Sengoku. If it fails, Newgate will take action immediately. Yulo immediately had a plan in mind and said in a deep voice. Fire Lotus descends from heaven. Before he finished speaking, cyan flames burst out from Yulo's right hand. A steady stream of cyan flames poured out, and under Yulo's control, they compressed into a palm-sized cyan transparent lotus. Yulo retracted his palm and watched the fire lotus float into the sky until it disappeared, with a smile on his lips. Is this Yulo's new move? Shiki murmured in confusion, staring curiously at the fire lotus as it disappeared. He had clearly sensed just now that the cyan flame was compressed into a lotus flower, with terrifying energy hidden inside. The pirates also knew the power of the blue flames, and their uneasy moods eased a bit. At this moment, the Marine fleet was in the sky. They only felt that the originally colorless sunlight had a faint cyan light, and at the same time the temperature seemed to have become higher. What's this? Is he a fruit user? Sengoku and Zephyr sensed the danger at the same time. The two subconsciously looked up and saw the clouds in the sky suddenly shattering. A green translucent lotus flower that was huge enough to cover all the warships fell upside down. In an instant, Sengoku, Zephyr and Marine were suffocated by a wave of heat falling from the sky. This heat wave was extremely hot. Sengoku and Zephyr vaguely felt that there seemed to be terrifying power contained in the green transparent lotus. Sengoku looked at the sky, his face darkening. If this attack were to land, Marine would probably suffer heavy casualties. Before the fighting even started, the morale of the Marine soldiers had already collapsed. This opportunity to eliminate Rocks is hard won and must not be missed. This green fire lotus is not simple, be careful, Zephyr said from the side. Facing such a huge range of attacks, Sengoku, as a demon fruit power, has an advantage in blocking compared to Zephyr. Zephyr, don't worry, I will stop him. Sengoku's tone was solemn. This green fire lotus made him feel the pressure. The blue transparent lotus descended rapidly, getting closer and closer to the Marine fleet. The temperatures Marines endure are also getting higher and higher. Look at me. Sengoku's roar reached everyone's ears, and even Yulo kept paying attention. Sengoku, standing on the bow of the ship, ripped off the cloak of justice behind him and instantly activated his devil fruit ability. A figure with glittering golden light rose up and turned into a huge golden Buddha. Even the warship at Sengoku's feet could not bear the weight of this giant Buddha. The golden power fluctuates and condenses in the right hand. Sengoku looked at the green fire lotus, without any fear, and suddenly pushed his huge palm upwards. Big Buddha shockwave. On Sengoku's palm, the power continued to fluctuate, and he bombarded the green transparent fire lotus. The current Sengoku can be said to be strong, and at his peak, his strength is not inferior to Whitebeard Newgate. This move of yours should be blocked by Sengoku. Shiki looked at it with wide eyes and said to Yulo beside him. Just wait and see. Yulo smiled mysteriously. Sengoku's shockwave directly hit the center of the blue fire lotus. The powerful force blocked the rapid fall of the green fire lotus. Click. Click. Cracks gradually appeared in the fire lotus. But Sengoku also felt uncomfortable, as if he was in magma, and the hot breath went straight into his internal organs. If it weren't for the protection of the fruit, the body would have been dried up long ago. Hiss. Da-da-ha. Sengoku gritted his teeth and suddenly increased his strength, causing the green fire lotus to shatter. The Marines couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, but the temperature in the air did not drop. Just when Sengoku was about to release the great Buddha form. Sengoku, be careful. Zephyr exclaimed in his ears. Sengoku was shocked when he saw the fragments of the green fire lotus turned into streams of green flames and continued to shoot towards the warship below. Fire and meteor. This is the flame Yulo just compressed in the fire lotus. As long as the green fire lotus is broken, these flowing fires will burst out and form another attack. Even if the green fire lotus is not broken, it will be transformed into an attack under Yulo's control. A dense stream of green flowing fire fell from the sky, like meteors streaking across the sky. Your moves, will change on their own. Shiki was stunned and opened his mouth wide. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. This scene is awesome. But what if the ship carrying gold from the sky burns down? Shiki, don't worry. These flowing fires are all under my control, not to mention Sengoku and Zephyr. How could they ignore them? Yulo noticed Shiki's concern and explained aloud. Gu la la la. Yulo's brain is so good, Newgate laughed. He watched for a long time, and he already knew Yulo's plan in his heart. This time, Shiki felt relieved, as expected. Big Buddha shockwave. Seeing this scene, Sengoku was furious and fired another powerful energy wave. Zephyr armament hockey covered it and stepped on moonwalk to stop the falling fire in midair. Zephyr, the temperature of this green fire is extremely high. Don't touch it. Just disperse it into the sea. Sengoku looked gloomy and said in a deep voice to Zephyr, who came to assist him. Okay. Zephyr nodded solemnly upon hearing this. Then the two of them took action at the same time. It's Commander Zephyr, he also took action. Sengoku and Zephyr, the two admiral candidates, attack at the same time, they can definitely block it. The Marine soldiers on the warship below exclaimed, seeing the two admiral candidates taking action at the same time. This scene made them feel a little more at ease. Compared to when Rock's pirates suddenly appeared just now, I felt much less frightened. Yulo, who was on the pirate ship in the distance, saw this scene, and the proud smile flashed on his face. He was waiting for this moment, the moment when Sengoku and Zephyr were fully focused on blocking the flow of fire and had no time to be distracted. Yulo's pupils shrank, and his domineering aura rose to the sky. Conqueror's hockey. The clouds broke and the sea surged. A black airflow appeared, sweeping the entire marine fleet with lightning speed. The soldiers below the rank of generals suddenly felt a powerful pressure coming over them like Mount Tai. Then, before he could resist, his eyes turned white and he fainted and fell to the ground, unconscious. In a moment, the numerical advantage on the field was reversed, and most of Marine soldiers fainted. When this scene appeared, the faces of Sengoku and Zephyr in the air changed drastically, and they suddenly became angry. Damn it. The eyes of both of them were split at the same time. As the resourceful general, Sengoku was aware of it now. This is Rock's pirate's tactic to attract his attention. Use a big move at the beginning, so that he can resist Conqueror's hockey and have no time to clone, and then release Conqueror's hockey unexpectedly, shocking most of the Marine soldiers and fainting. In this way, Marines' advantage in numbers will be gone. All Marines, listen. Surround the Rock's pirate, Don't let anyone go. Sengoku roared angrily, the killing intent boiling in his heart. Then he stepped on Moonwalk and headed towards the pirate ship in the distance. Zephyr also reacted, scattered the last stray fire, and followed closely behind. After most of the marine soldiers fell down one by one, the Rock's pirates screamed in surprise. Yulo Kadris are mighty. What are you waiting for? Why don't you kill them now? Gia ha 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 ha, kids, what are you waiting for? Grab me the gold from the sky. Golden Lion Shiki pulled out Sakuraju and Kumu, laughing ferociously. The captains and crew members of the 4 pirate ships drove their pirate ships and rushed toward the approaching marine fleet. One by one, they grabbed their weapons and stormed into the warship with overwhelming force. Newgate looked at the charging Sengoku, and his heart became full of fighting spirit. He waved the bushunkari in his hand and rushed forward. Agula la la la, Sengoku. This time there must be a winner. A white airball appeared on the blade of Kong Yunchi, activated his shock fruit ability, and faced the giant palm slapped by the golden Buddha. Newgate, I'm going to impel you Rock's pirates all down. Sengoku's heart was filled with rage, golden light bloomed, and the energy fluctuations in his palm became stronger and stronger. Marine's strength advantage is gone. I'm afraid it will be a tough battle. I don't know how many marine soldiers will die. Sengoku was full of rage, and his golden palms fired a terrifying energy shockwave. How could Whitebeard Newgate be bad? A clicking sound sounded. The Kong Yunchi in his hand was swung and slashed towards the golden giant palm. Wherever he passed, white cracks appeared in the air, as if the space was broken, and the scene was horrifying. Boom. 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 Kong Yunchi and the giant golden palm collided in the air, and the huge shockwave and violent vibration force were entangled together. A ball of energy light formed between the giant golden palm and Kong Yunchi, with golden and white energy rolling and surging in it. Then, it exploded with a bang. Strong shocks and vibrations spread to all directions, and a large crater was blown out of the sea. Pirate ships and warships were hesitating on the rough sea. Some pirates and sailors at close range were blown away by the air current. Sengoku and Newgate separated at the first touch, and then removed their fruit abilities at the same time. Armament hockey covered them, stepping on the air and fighting you back and forth in the air. The physical duel was not bad at all, and the airflow generated during the battle swept the entire battlefield from time to time. The top fighting force on the sea, Whitebeard Newgate, Buddha's Sengoku. Yulo on the pirate ship has not yet taken action, but he is very excited inside. Whether it's fruit abilities, hockey, or physical skills, one move can unleash earth-shattering power. Rox, who had been standing there, raised the corners of his mouth and nodded secretly. Yulo really gave him a lot of surprises, with monster-like talent, cadre-level strength, not being reckless when encountering problems, and having a clear mind. More importantly, Yulo has a strong heart, a heart eager to fight and keep getting stronger. With the talents of Rock's pirate, overthrowing the world government is just around the corner. On the other side of the sky, the battle between Golden Lion Shiki and Black Arm Zephyr was equally fierce and spectacular. As a lion fruit user, Shiki's territory is the sky. He floats and has a flexible body, which gives him great advantages. Clang. 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 Sakuraju and Deadwood kept slashing at Zephyr, and Zephyr transformed his arms covered with armament hockey. During the collision, sparks flew everywhere. Ha 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 ha, Golden Lion Shiki, are you tickling me? Zephyr performs the moonwalk among the 6 moves, stepping on the air and jumping back and forth in the air. After a fight, Shiki's Sakura Ten and Kumu only made him feel the slightest pain. Suddenly, before Zephyr finished speaking, he was struck by an oncoming slash and flew away. Well, Zephyr, I haven't seen you for a month, and you've become even more arrogant. Shiki squinted his eyes, feeling quite unhappy, while Sakura Ten and Deadwood kept slashing out. If you dare to taunt me during the battle, let's see if I don't hack you to death. Lion, slash wave. Lion, Thousand Slice Valley. Taking advantage of the opportunity for Zephyr to be slashed away, Shiki's figure hovered in the air, moving nimbly. Every time he moved to a position, he struck out with several slashes. Zephyr stepped on Moonwalk, and just as he stabilized his body, dense sword energy fell from the sky. I'll go. There are so many. Zephyr glared and couldn't help but curse. The overwhelming sword energy made his scalp numb. Moonwalk's agility in the air is inferior to Shiki's lion fruit ability. Even if observation hockey is fully activated, it is difficult to avoid the sword energy that is approaching. Holy shit. I can only bear it one wave. Zephyr was heartbroken, gritted his teeth, and concentrated on fighting at full strength. As a rare expert in Haki and taijutsu, the coordination between the 6 moves and Haki is perfect in his hands, and the coordination and transition between various moves are natural. Countless 6-style combinations and extended skills were performed by him. For a moment, the airwaves rolled and the energy shot out, colliding with the sword energy coming towards him. Boom. 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 Explosions sounded one after another, and violent airwaves flowed, pushing Golden Lion Shiki to a high place. Zephyr landed on the warship and took a slight breath. The move just now was indeed subtle and powerful, but it also consumed a lot of energy. This is because his body is extremely strong. If it were a person with average physical strength, he would be exhausted after just a few moves. On the battlefield, there were flashes of swords and waves of air. There was a scuffle between Marine and the pirates. Sengoku, Newgate, Shiki, and Zephyr were evenly matched in a short period of time, and there was no winner. A captain-level pirate from Rock's Pirate. After facing Marine's 6 vice admirals, only 2 were slightly stronger and could temporarily fight against the vice admirals. The other 4 were slightly weaker and were suppressed by the 4 vice admirals. On the other hand, in terms of low-level combat power, due to the fainting of some Marine soldiers, the crew of Rock's Pirate had the advantage. Yulo watched attentively, thinking slightly. Marine was clearly prepared to catch them all. There is no way to continue like this, and the battle will only become more stalemate. They are here to snatch the gold from the sky. The longer the stalemate lasts, the worse it will be for them. If Marine reinforcements arrive again, they may not even be able to grab the gold in the sky. Yulo took one look at the 2 ships carrying heavenly gold, and then made up his mind. He flexed his muscles, his eyes burning with fighting spirit. It ejected with a bang and rushed towards Zephyr, who had just landed back on the warship. Shiki and Zephyr in the distance were about to take action again. Suddenly, the 2 observation Haki felt a powerful aura approaching rapidly. Yulo boy. Shiki was a little surprised when he saw Yulo rushing towards him. Who is this person? He looks strong. Zephyr's face on the warship was solemn. Facing 2 people at the same time, he had to brace himself. He didn't think Yulo would pose a threat to him, but there was a Shiki staring at him. Shiki, I'll hold Zephyr back while you go grab the heavenly gold. Yulo approached Zephyr and shouted to the surprised Shiki. Shiki understood after hearing this, and immediately stopped staring at Zephyr and quickly headed towards the ship containing the sky gold. His ability comes in handy at this time. As long as he touches the hull of the ship, he can control the ship to float above the clouds. In this way, the gold in the sky is obtained, and even if Marine has great abilities, it will not be able to snatch back the ships in the sky. Seeing this situation, Zephyr felt a sudden rush in his heart. How could he watch helplessly as Shiki slipped away from under his nose? If Golden Lion Shiki succeeds in capturing the heavenly gold, they will retreat immediately. Not only did they fail to destroy the rocks, but they also lost the gold in the sky. By then, they would be in big trouble. So before destroying rocks, absolutely no one can be allowed to get close to sky gold. Zephyr hurriedly shot out to intercept Golden Lion Shiki. Fire punch. Suddenly, a voice sounded, and then a wave of fiery air swallowed Zephyr. Yulo activated Qinglian Earth Core Fire, and green flames shot out from his fists, blocking Zephyr's path. When Zephyr saw the blue sea of AA fire blocking the road, a look of shock flashed in his eyes and he quickly stopped. This is the flame contained in the huge green fire lotus just now. Unexpectedly, it was this young man who released it. He felt the danger from this blue sea of AA fire. Just standing in front of the sea of AA fire made him feel as if he was inside a volcano. New Kadri Yulo, you must have released the blue fire lotus and Conqueror's Haki that fell from the sky just now. Zephyr stopped chasing Golden Lion Shiki, turned around and faced Yulo Meat, and said in a deep voice. He guessed Yulo's identity. Apart from his solemn voice and gloomy face, he didn't have too much anxiety. Because Garp and Crane are watching secretly, ready to support them at any time. Ha 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 ha, Marine's information is quite good. Yes, it's me. Yulo said with a smile, and then thought thoughtfully. It seems that there must be Marines molest inside Rock's Pirate. There was a wave of excitement in Zephyr's heart. The new monster Yulo in front of him was beyond his expectation. Both Cyan Fire Lotus and Conqueror's Haki are far stronger than ordinary Kadris. Is this the so-called new monster? It is indeed worthy of the word monster. He did not dare to relax at all and quickly adjusted his state. Armament Haki covered his whole body, and he really didn't dare to touch the cyan flame. This was the only way to avoid being burned. Zephyr uses Shave and Moonwalk among the 6 moves, combined with Transformation, to move at high speed in midair. He planned to move at high speed to avoid the attack of the blue flames. As long as he can get close to the oil line, the next step will be a battle of physical skills. In an instant, he was in front of Yulo, and the fist covering Armament Haki blasted out. The nearby air was driven along, forming circles of airflow that were about to hit Yulo. If Yulo doesn't disperse the green fire, he will be hit by his Armament Haki. Sure enough, facing the black fist that rushed straight to the door, the rising green lotus on Yulo's body dissipated, and the surrounding temperature instantly dropped a little. A flash of joy flashed in Zephyr's heart. Don't use the fruit demon fruit, see how I torture you. In terms of physical skills, he is quite confident. No matter how strong Yulo is, he still has devil fruit abilities, but he is definitely not as good as him in terms of physical skills. Yulo looked at the fist coming straight at him with a sneer. As a Logia user, how could he not know what Zephyr was thinking? But in front of him, Zephyr made a mistake. But don't forget, he is also a great swordsman. As the space fluctuated, 1001 Knights appeared in Yulo's hands. The 1001 Knights, which was originally a black sword, was covered with Armament Haki, and the aura it exuded became even sharper and sharper. Yulo held the blade across his chest, and with a clang, Zephyr's fist hit the blade. The fierce punch was torn apart by the sword energy emitted, and the two of them were evenly matched at this moment of collision. This is a black knife. Zephyr felt the tremor coming from his arm, his pupils shrank suddenly, and he couldn't help but secretly thought something bad. What a sharp sword. Only then did he remember that Yulo was a great swordsman. Yulo didn't carry a famous sword with him before. How could this black sword appear out of thin air? Thinking of this, he retracted his contempt for Yulo, and tensed up like he was facing Golden Lion Shiki. Zephyr, your strength is just tickling. Yulo looked at Zephyr mockingly and said what Zephyr said to Shiki before. Then he looked hard and stopped holding back. He also wanted to see who was stronger between him and Zephyr now. HMPH, who doesn't say big words? Show your strength. Zephyr snorted coldly, and the trajectory of his punch was unpredictable, like a group of demons dancing around, constantly colliding with the incoming black knives. Clang. 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 The black knife waved, the cold light flashed, and the sound of the sword sounded one after another. As the saying goes, no matter how good your skills are, you are still afraid of kitchen knives. Gradually, Zephyr felt that the pain in his arms was getting stronger and stronger, even if it was covered with Armament Haki. He suddenly discovered that Yulo's swordsmanship was as good as Golden Lion Shiki's. Zephyr and Golden Lion Shiki frequently fought against each other, and he knew very well that Shiki's swordsmanship was the best in the entire sea. There are many great swordsmen in the sea, but there are also strong and weak swordsmen among the same great swordsmen. When the four of them heard the information, they subconsciously made preconceptions. Yulo's youth made them think that Yulo was just a new swordsman. Now it seems they were totally wrong and need to re-evaluate this, Rock's Pirate's new cadre. No, after this battle, Marine will destroy everyone in Rock's Pirate. Shocked, the battle must continue. As an admiral candidate, Zephyr is not willing to be outdone. Armament Haki was brought to the ultimate level by him, and his 6-style skills were used without reservation. Finger Pistol. The jet black index finger gathered huge power and pointed towards Yulo. Even within a short distance, there was the sound of air blasting. Yulo, who was fully focused on the battle, stabbed forward with the black knife. The sword energy flowing around the blade merged with Yulo's sword intention, and continued to converge on the tip of the blade. Clang. The tip of the knife and the fingertips touch. This is not only the collision of Armament Haki, but also the competition between swordsmanship and physical skills. Boom. The two powerful energies were entangled, and no one could do anything about the other. Finally, they exploded with a bang and dispersed in all directions. The piercing Qi Jin and the sharp sword Qi swept across the entire battlefield. Qi Jin and sword Qi were everywhere, causing the seawater and clouds to break and become chaotic. Finger holes and sword marks began to appear on the warships and pirate ships floating on the sea. Sengoku and Newgate not far away couldn't help but take a look. It doesn't matter if you don't look at them, but you will be shocked when you look at them. Scattered energy and sword energy rushed towards the faces of the two men. Fortunately, Sengoku and Newgate, Grandmaster Observation Haki, turned their heads slightly and hid. Gu la 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 la. Boy Yulo has made great progress. He is actually evenly matched with Zephyr. Taking advantage of the break in the battle, Newgate laughed. This kid is the new guy. Opposite him, Sengoku's face was as gloomy as water, which was completely different from Newgate's. How could this newcomer Yulo grow so fast? I thought that the main opponents in this operation would be Rox, Newgate, and Shiki, but I didn't expect that the newcomer Yulo would actually fight with Zephyr. It has only been a month since they received the information. At this time, Sengoku realized that they alone could not complete this operation, and they had to let Garp and he who were hiding in the dark take action. They must ensure the success of this operation. Shiki floats in the air and flies towards the ship containing the sky gold. The marine soldiers along the way had nothing to do with Shiki and could only watch as Shiki flew over. But Shiki was very interested, and from time to time he would shoot out a few sword energy downwards, making the marine soldiers below furious. Gia ha 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 ha. Shiki laughed with joy, circled in the air several times, and swooped down towards the ship containing the sky gold. Several marine soldiers who wanted to intercept Shiki were knocked away. Looking at the heavenly gold in front of him, Shiki stretched out his hands. Just when it was about to touch the hull, suddenly, a figure rushed out of the ship containing the sky gold. Bang's punch hit Shiki's body, knocking Shiki out from the top. Shiki was confused. What the hell? Did he get punched just now? Moreover, this person was extremely fast and powerful. He hit him in an instant. Boom. With a bang, Shiki's body fell rapidly towards the sea, and he stabilized his body until he was about to touch the seawater. But the powerful force carried by that punch set off strong winds and hit the sea. The seawater exploded and a crater appeared. It's you. Garp. Golden Lion Shiki looked ugly and didn't react at all. How come Garp appears here? Isn't it just Sengoku and Zephyr? Shiki's expression changed as he thought of Garp emerging from the ship containing the heavenly gold. Could it be that Garp has been hidden on the gold transport ship in the sky from beginning to end? At the same time, in the fierce battle between Yulo and Zephyr, a figure also emerged from the warship next to him. The figure was extremely agile and was close to Yulo in the blink of an eye. The ability to wash fruits is activated. A direct stream of attack hit Yulo, who was fighting Zephyr. The great swordsman is extremely sensitive to danger, coupled with the mid-level observation haki. Yulo noticed when the figure took action. Elementalize. The body turned into green fire and dispersed, avoiding the attack, and regrouped in the distance. You are Crane. Yulo stared at this beautiful figure and recognized it immediately. This is clearly the young Crane Vice Admiral, the future Chief Advisor of Naval Headquarters. At this time, Shiki in the distance was punched away by Garp, who suddenly appeared. This scene happened to be seen by Yulo. His brows suddenly frowned. He looked at the crane in front of him and said with a smile. Ha ha ha, Marine is really good at planning, but your lineup is still a bit underwhelming. You know, Rox, as the captain, has not taken action yet. Even Yulo hasn't used his full strength yet. Arrogant and arrogant, you will all be arrested this time. Impel Down has prepared cells for you. Zephyr came to his side, with a dark face and a cold snort. Zephyr felt very embarrassed when he was locked in a battle with an underage brat and ended up being supported by Crane, who was a female soldier. He didn't speak, and kept staring at Yulo, his wise eyes seeming to see through Yulo. Zephyr's words suddenly reminded her that this Yulo must be taken down. Otherwise, with his talent, it will only be a matter of time before he surpasses Rox. That's Garp. Crane. Rox, who had been standing on the pirate ship in the distance, narrowed his eyes slightly and his expression finally changed. What he had been guessing happened. Approach from the beginning, after the marine lurking soldier appears. Rox used the top observation haki to cover the entire battlefield. He had already sensed that there were still 2 auras in marine. Even though he was well hidden, he couldn't escape Rox's perception. Is that what I think? Rox murmured to himself, then suddenly became enlightened. There was no one in the dark in his perception, and all of Marine's combat power appeared at this moment. But Rox was a little disappointed. With just these few, you really don't know how high the world is. Rox glanced around, his face full of disdain. At this time, Rox took action, and he instantly disappeared from the bow of the ship. Holding a long knife in his right hand, he quickly rushed towards Garp. The ferocious momentum is like an evil tiger pouncing on food. Rox takes action. The marine soldier was terrified inside. Ha ha ha, the captain takes action, come on. The pirates exclaimed and became even more excited. Garp, watch out. Sengoku, Zephyr and Crane were all startled and reminded loudly. Rox rushed towards Garp. Come on, Rox, you're going to be arrested by me. Garp looked heavy, lowered his legs, clenched his fists, and took a stance. He speaks arrogant words, but his body is very honest. Facing the New World Overlord Rox, he must go all out. Monkey D. Garp, Marine's strongest newcomer. We are all members of the D family, let me test your strength. As Rox spoke, he rushed over Garp. The long knife in his hand suddenly shot out, a cold light flashed, and the sword energy cut through the air and struck Garp. Garp urged armament hockey, his arms and fists were black. The muscles in his waist and legs exerted force, and the whole person was ejected. He will not let the sword energy get close to the warship, otherwise if he blocks the sword energy, the wave generated will overturn the warship. A clang. The sound was like the clash of gold and silver. The hard fist hit Rock's sword energy, causing a spark to scatter, and the sword energy was scattered. Garp felt a bit of pain coming from his fist, which made him energetic. He could sense with his knowledge that this sword was just an ordinary slash without any hockey attached. Even without the blessing of the great swordsman's sword intention, it was just a pure sword energy. Haha, it took a while. Rox chuckled, covered armament hockey with the long knife, and slashed again. Garp, who was dispelled by the sword, did not turn around. He stepped on the moonwalk and rushed towards Rox with all his strength. The fists collided with the blades, and the two hockeys began to fight. Sparks appeared first, and then turned into domineering black arcs. The energy fluctuated violently, and airwaves swept around. Ha 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 ha, you are quite capable. You are from the D-clan. Why don't you join me? Rox looked directly at Garp with intense eyes. Rox, stop dreaming. I'm Marine, Garp said through gritted teeth despite the pressure. No kidding, join Rox Pirate. This is an extremely brutal terrorist organization. Rox snorted coldly, and his aura became even stronger. With a bang, Garp staggered back, and it took 5 or 6 moonwalks to stabilize his body. At the same time, his face became more serious. He didn't expect that Rox, who rarely took action, would be so powerful. He is worthy of being the maritime overlord galloping in the New World. At this moment, Golden Lion Shiki took advantage of the loophole, and no one in Marine could stop him. The Marine soldiers on a Sky Gold transport ship were cleared by him in 2 or 3 times. Directly activating the Lion Fruit ability, the transport ship left the water and was slowly floating. Gold is floating in the sky. It's Golden Lion Shiki, stop him. The sharp-eyed among Marine noticed it and quickly shouted in panic. Not good. Broken. Sengoku and Garp exclaimed as they heard the news. Gu la 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 la, Sengoku, where are you looking? Newgate laughed loudly, and the Yongdao in his hand hit Sengoku with the power of shock. There was no chance for Sengoku to escape. Sengoku gritted his teeth and stepped forward helplessly. This is especially true for Garp. Opponents like Rox do not allow him to have any distractions. At this moment, the only ones who can stop Golden Lion Shiki are Zephyr and Crane. The Crane in the distance, after watching Yulo for a long time, was awakened by the panic of the Marine soldiers. She looked at Zephyr beside her and communicated with her eyes. Zephyr looked heavy and nodded slightly. Then Zephyr stepped forward and faced Yulo. Crane, on the other hand, flashed and was about to go in the direction of Golden Lion Shiki. Snort. Yulo snorted coldly. How could he do what he wished? He is still here, how could he have the confidence to slip away from him? Boom. The temperature in the air rose sharply. Holding the black knife in his right hand, the Qinglian Earth Core fire in his left hand burned. The wrath of the flame dragon. Yulo stretched out his left hand and shook it at He Shukong. Qinglian's heartfire surged out and turned into a 10-meter-long blue flame dragon, roaring and flying in the direction of the Crane. Zephyr's expression changed when he saw this, and he stepped lightly to intercept the green fire dragon. At the same time, Zephyr, yours is here. Yulo's right hand was not idle either. The sword intent on the black sword soared into the sky, blessing armament hockey. 1,080 troubled winds. With one slash of the sword, the wind and clouds dispersed. Countless sword energy shot out, forming a sword energy storm tens of meters long. The lower part even touched the sea surface, and the seawater was directly separated and cut in half. Crane, be careful. Zephyr's expression changed with shock and anxiety, and he reminded Crane. The sword energy storm was extremely fast, just like a real storm. It had already arrived in front of him, and there was no way to escape. Boom. 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 In a hurry, Zephyr unleashed several powerful chi energy. After only dispersing a small part of the sword energy, his attack was like a stone's throw. Aha! Zephyr roared, his aura rising to ultimate, a steady stream of armament hockey in his body covering his whole body, and his hands crossed on his chest. A clang. The next moment, a storm of sword energy swallowed Zephyr. Clang. 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 The sound of Jin Ji kept ringing, which was the collision of sword energy and armed color. On the other side, Crane heard Zephyr's voice. Suddenly she felt a wave of heat coming from behind, instantly making her feel like she was falling from a volcano. Crane uses moonwalk in the air to turn around flexibly. A huge green fire dragon came into view, biting towards her with billowing steam. This temperature is such a terrifying flame. She instantly knew that this was Yulo's cyan flame. She immediately removed moonwalk, and without any power to support her, she fell directly towards the sea. But this is not enough, far from it. This speed can only avoid most of them, but there are still a few parts below that cannot be avoided. Crane's combat power is weaker than that of Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr. She is not careless about an enemy that Zephyr must take seriously. Armament hockey was launched with full force, focusing on covering the upper body. At the same time, the fruit washing ability was activated, and a 3-meter-long water wave appeared, blocking the green fire dragon. G. 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 Water and fire meet. Water and fire are incompatible. The boiling sound rang 3 times, and then there was no movement. The green fire giant roared past the next moment, missed the crane, and flew away. Even if he had a chance encounter, it would not be easy for he. The body fell. Oh, you are indeed a crane. This Zephyr. Tisk tisk tisk. Yulo looked at Crane, then at Zephyr, shook his head and teased. The implication is obvious. Compared with Crane, this Zephyr is too stupid. Sometimes a person's IQ can determine that person's fighting style. After Zephyr was swallowed by the sword energy storm, he resisted the slash with all his strength, and was finally pushed down by the impact. Zephyr. Crane. Sengoku and Garp roared with mixed feelings of worry and anger. This Yulo. The two of them were furious and gnashed their teeth in anger. They have been paying attention to the entire battlefield, and the situation of Zephyr and Crane is no exception. When Yulo took action, the sharp sword energy and blazing flames caught the attention of the two men. Seeing his companions Zephyr and Crane falling injured, Garp was furious. He wanted to rush over immediately and save Zephyr, Crane. But he didn't act impulsively and remained calm. In front of him was rocks, and he wanted to rush over, but he didn't have the slightest certainty. Ah, Newgate. In the roar of Sengoku, a shock wave of his palm bounced off Newgate, and he rushed towards the falling crane. Gu la 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 la, Sengoku, where are you going? Newgate's fists wrapped in a white ball of light, punching hard to the left and right. The shock fruit ability was activated, and white cracks struck Sengoku along the air. Damn it. Sengoku's expression changed as he just turned around, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of crisis. 2 waves of violent air vibrations struck him from both sides, forming a pincer attack. In this situation, take care of yourself first. Sengoku transformed into the form of a giant Buddha and pushed his palms to both sides to withstand the incoming shock force. Immediately afterwards, Newgate rushed up and the two struggled again. Sengoku wants to escape, but it is temporarily impossible. The 3 officers are unable to escape for the time being. Let's go and take care of Commander He. Vice Admiral, who was relatively relaxed during the battle, gave the order. Seeing that the crane was about to fall into the sea, 4 Marine soldiers rushed over. The 4 of them took action together, barely caught the crane, and quickly sent him to the nearest warship. Seeing this scene, Sengoku and Garp breathed a sigh of relief. It would be over if the crane fell into the sea. The demon fruit power was in a coma, and he probably died without even knowing how. Zephyr on the other side was conscious, but his physical strength was too much, and he looked miserable at the moment. Send him to the medical room quickly. He also retreated to the warship and looked at the unconscious crane, his face as gloomy as water. The battle has not yet captured Rox and his gang, and even Crane was injured and unconscious. It seems that this operation is probably in doubt. When Zephyr thought of this, a voice seemed to be cooperating with him. Gia ha 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 ha, Captain Rox, I got gold from the sky. Golden Lion Shiki's arrogant signature laughter rang out, and everyone on the battlefield, from Marines to pirates, could hear it clearly. In the distance, the first gold transport ship in the sky was already floating in the sky. Shaki stood on the second ship, slowly rose into the air, and swept down many Marine soldiers who rushed up. Damn it! We must not let the pirates succeed. Let's rush over together. When the Marine soldiers saw that the gold in the sky was taken away, they were all very angry, and their momentum increased greatly. Every one of them knows that losing the heavenly gold is everyone's dereliction of duty and will be punished. That's why now I want to fight tooth and nail to keep the gold in the sky. But it's not that easy. The pirates are not bad at all. Look, I've got gold in the sky. Wow, we did it. Brothers, these Marines still want to take it back. Stop them all. When the pirates saw the gold in the sky, they immediately cheered. Driven by greed and desire, emotions are high and fighting spirit is high. Each one of them looked like they were on aphrodisiacs, and they yelled at the Marine soldiers when they saw them. Ha ha ha, Shaki, I got the gold from the sky, you retreat first. Young men, don't be obsessed with fighting and retreat one after another. Rox, who suppressed Garp throughout, smiled and gave the order to retreat. What he wants is heavenly gold. Now that heavenly gold is available, why waste energy and continue fighting? After Rox spoke, the pirates stopped their attack and let out a burst of cheers. Under Marine's conspiracy, not only the situation was reversed, but also the gold in the sky was obtained. This is so exciting. On the other hand, the Marine soldiers looked extremely ugly as they looked at the retreating pirates. After all, if their opponents want to run, they can't stop them. Whitebeard, Newgate and Sengoku were instantly separated. Gu la 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 la, Sengoku, do you want to continue? Sengoku's face was gloomy, lost in thought. He was really undecided. Whitebeard Newgate took the opportunity and turned around and left. He didn't want to fight anymore. He just fought with just a few moves. Even if he suppressed Sengoku slightly, it would not be easy to defeat him. Yulo looked at the somewhat tired Zephyr below and said playfully. Zephyr, once you take a break, you will rest until the battle is over. Zephyr, who was originally looking solemn, turned pale after hearing this and immediately broke his guard. After Yulo finished speaking, he turned into a stream of fire and moved away from here. Zephyr is helpless. With Yulo's strength, he can't stop him even if he wants to. Rox dodged and jumped far away, while Garp was extremely furious and chased Rox on the moonwalk as he retreated. The operation failed, the gold in the sky was taken away, and even the crane fell into a coma. Garp's originally calm heart was taken over by anger. It's not that he can't accept this, but the premise is that at least one cadre must be left behind and he can have an explanation to his superiors, so that he can feel more at ease. Otherwise, Marine's action would be so frustrating. Garp, come back, we can't keep them. Sengoku's heart was also filled with resentment and unwillingness. But as the resourceful general, he still retains his rational judgment. At this time, there is no point in chasing. Even if we catch up, whether we can win or not is still a question. In this plan, I thought Crane would be able to contain the newcomer Yulo, but who would have thought that Yulo was so powerful that he lost his combat power in just one encounter and also restrained Zephyr at the same time. As a result, the high-level combat power was lacking, and Golden Lion Shaki took advantage of the loophole. Garp turned a deaf ear to Sengoku's words and went after him. Rox and Newgate have returned to the pirate ship, and all the captains and crew members have also withdrawn. Under Sengoku's order, the Marine soldiers also stopped and stared at the Rox pirate with hatred. Everyone listened to the order, return to the warship, and take your positions. Follow the Vice Admiral Garp ahead. Sengoku quickly issued new orders, his tone full of helplessness. He had no choice but to leave Garp alone. In order to ensure Garp's safety, the Marine fleet has been following Garp, but keeping a certain distance. Garp's body kept moving forward, and the air beneath his feet rippled. Under full pursuit, the distance to Rox pirate slowly narrowed. At this time, Garp, after time digestion, the impulse has dissipated. But he was still angry inside, which made him hesitate and slow down. On the pirate ship moving in the distance, the captains and crew members were excited but also always vigilant. Everyone can see that Marine Vice Admiral Garp is pursuing, and the Marine fleet in the distance is also slowly approaching. Grr, that guy Garp is really persistent. Whitebeard Newgate sat on the deck, with the clouds aside, looking into the distant sky, and laughed. Gia ha 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 ha, when Garp's strength is exhausted, he will go back honestly. Golden Lion Shaki also spoke, not paying attention to Garp's relentless pursuit. At the same time, He also controls 2 sky gold transport ships, floating in the clouds at the front. The boss, Rox, looked forward, his expressionless face finally furrowing his brows. He also knew that Garp's impulsiveness would fade away when the impulse disappeared. But he was a dignified Rox, and it always made him feel uncomfortable being chased behind him. At this time, Newgate's voice reached everyone's ears. "Hey, that's not right. Where is Yulo boy? Why is he nowhere to be seen?" As soon as these words came out, Golden Lion Shiki reacted, slapped his thigh and said, "Yes, I felt like there was someone missing. It turned out to be Yulo." At this point, Shiki's voice stopped suddenly, and then his eyes widened. "Young Yulo, you won't let Marine catch you alone." When Whitebeard Newgate heard this, he shouted angrily, "Shiki, shut your stinky mouth. When I retreated, I saw Yulo retreating too. Besides, with Yulo's strength, who can catch him in Marine?" While Newgate and Shiki were arguing, Rox kept looking at the sky, looking particularly calm. Rox knows very well where Yulo is. He values Yulo very much. He has been paying attention to Yulo from the battle to the retreat. As for that idiot Golden Lion Shiki, he got 2 ships of heavenly gold and was so excited that he forgot about Yulo. "What is that? Look!" Suddenly, the pirates' voices sounded, their voices full of surprise. I saw the clouds suddenly shattering above the pursuing Garp. A huge pillar of blue fire fell from the sky and enveloped Garp. "Holy shit, is Yulo so violent?" Golden Lion Shiki followed everyone's gaze and civilized words came out. "Who else could that signature Chinglian Earth Heartfire be besides Yulo?" Golden Lion Shiki, asked, "Who else?" Gu la 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 la, as expected of Yulo, he can surprise you every time." Even Whitebeard Newgate was stunned for a moment before laughing in surprise. He clearly saw Yulo retreating, but why did he disappear? It turned out that he was going to stop Garp. By the way, the person involved, Garp, was hesitating. Observation Hockey sensed the attack, and Moonwalk cooperated with the shave, disappearing from the spot. The blue pillar of fire struck the air and hit the sea surface. The seawater evaporated and countless water vapor rose. Taking advantage of the rising fog, several more sword attacks struck. Not far away, Garp had just dodged the cyan fire pillar and was waiting for a furious counterattack. Suddenly, Hockey's arms were covered in jet black, and he struck forward. Clang! 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 The iron fist collided with the sword energy. After a few punches, the sword energy was completely shattered by Garp, and the diffuse mist also dispersed. "Yulo kid, you can't run away." Garp's voice was filled with anger, and he looked at Yulo who appeared in the air at some point. A hint of surprise appeared in his angry heart. This newcomer Yulo didn't run away. Originally, Garp was about to stop chasing, but Yulo's surprise. "Since you dare to show up, consider yourself unlucky, as you are worried that this operation will achieve nothing." "Haha. I don't plan to run either." Yulo held the black knife in his right hand and scratched his hair with his left hand, saying rather helplessly. He really had no intention of running away. Just as he was retreating, the system that had been silent throughout the battle suddenly rang, triggering the mission check-in. Ding. Trigger mission check-in. Faced with the pursuit of Monkey D. Garp, the strongest newcomer of the Marine Corps, host, as the strongest newcomer of the pirates, should shoulder the task of blocking. Please enjoy the collision between host and Monkey D. Garp. Monkey D. Garp no longer pursues, the mission is successfully checked in, and rewards are distributed. Yulo looked at the task clock on the system interface and complained endlessly. "Collide with your sister. Lousy is ready to run away, you ask Lousy to step forward." However, complaints are complaints, and task check-ins are still required. According to the nature of the system, the rewards for task check-ins are very high. Snort. Garp on the other side looked angrily, not giving Yulo a chance to escape, and attacked with an iron fist with a violent aura. Facing the angry Garp, Yulo adjusted his physical condition. Armament Hockey and the great swordsman's sword intent are all blessed on the black sword. The muscles all over his body were tense, and he slashed at him with the black knife. The iron fist and the blade collided, splashing several black arcs of electricity, and the two stared at each other. Boom. There was a loud bang. The airflow exploded and violent airwaves swept across. Garp stepped on Moonwalk and took 5 steps back, looking ugly. Yulo was thrown away, his body rotated and he landed firmly on the stern of the pirate ship. Now the pirates exclaimed, and the vigilant atmosphere disappeared. Shiki and Newgate were a little surprised. They didn't expect Yulo to be able to match up with Garp the Fist. Even Rocks couldn't help but curl up his lips after seeing Yulo take action. This Yulo is an absolute monster. Zephyr thought of his battle with Yulo, felt uneasy, and muttered to himself. At this time, Yulo suddenly put the black knife back into its sheath. The hot green fire burned. He held the sheath with his left hand and held it flat in front of him. His right hand slowly held the handle of the knife. Qinglian's inner fire continued to pour into the black knife, and even the black knife began to burn. When Garp saw Yulo returning to the sky above the pirate ship and sheathing his sword, he thought he was going to stop there. But who knows, the next second, the green flames in the black knife seemed to merge into one. Not good. Garp was furious and rushed in Yulo's direction. However, Yulo is ready to go. Burn the city on fire. Accompanied by Yulo's mighty voice, the black knife was suddenly pulled out, and the blade burning with Qinglian's inner fire was unsheathed. Taking advantage of the trend, he swept forward, and hot and majestic blue flames spurted out. The flames on the blade seemed to be endless, and the flames spread rapidly, and a sea of AAA fire appeared out of thin air on the sea, rolling towards the Garp and Marine fleet. Rushing forward, Garp's expression changed drastically and he suddenly stopped. The blue sea of AA fire grew bigger and bigger, sweeping over like an overwhelming force. A suffocating heat wave hit Garp's face, causing a burning sensation on his skin. He has also felt the temperature of Qinglian's inner fire. It would be okay if such a terrifying high-temperature flame hits his body. There was no way to hide from such a huge sea of AA fire, touching the sea below and the clouds above. As a last resort, Garp could only retreat. But after retreating a certain distance, he found that the sea of AAA fire spread extremely quickly. If we retreat further, we will have to retreat to the sky above the Marine fleet. Garp gritted his teeth and stopped retreating. Armament hockey was fully covered, and he looked like a little black man at first glance. He clenched his fists, his muscles bulged, and he used all his strength to strike two of his best iron fists. Razor activates. Moonwalk and shave fusion skills. The whole person shot out like a bullet, and a sharp trajectory appeared in the air, pointing directly at the surging blue sea of AA fire. Garp. Don't be reckless. Sengoku and Zephyr exclaimed when they saw this scene, with worried looks on their faces. At this time, Garp had already rushed out, like a black stream of light. Withstanding the intense heat, the moment he got close to the flames, the energy from the iron fist hit the sea of AAA fire, blasting a big hole. Garp rushed in with overwhelming force, and driven by his energy, he penetrated directly through the sea of AA fire. Huh. What's going on? Garp rushed out of the sea of AAA fire and showed a surprised expression. This is a bit too simple. The temperature of this flame was indeed terrifying, but when he passed through the sea of AA fire, it was instantly dispersed by the force of his fist. It didn't attack him at all, burning his body. Garp couldn't help but look at Yulo, who launched the attack. Yulo from a distance has been watching here, with a smile of success on his lips. Oops. Garp stared, noticed this inexplicable smile, and thought to himself with a thump in his heart. He turned around quickly and saw that the hole he had made had completely healed. The blue sea of AA fire was still majestic and overwhelming, and it was getting farther and farther away from him, moving forward behind him. This blue sea of AA fire was not targeting him at all. But behind him, the Marine fleet. Garp was filled with anger and looked at Yulo with murderous intent in his eyes. Yulo smiled but said nothing. Aha, eh? Garp roared, turned around and rushed into the fire. On the other side, everyone in Marine saw Garp breaking through the sea of AA fire. Before they could be happy, they saw the sea of AA fire unabated, falling from the sky and covering the entire Marine fleet. This Issei, Zephyr's eyes widened when he saw this. Quick, quick, everyone retreat. Sengoku even directly issued the order to retreat. When the Marine soldiers heard this, they immediately panicked. At this time, they had already felt the terrifying high temperature coming from Qinglian's core fire. In a hurry, he controlled the warship and changed its direction. However, it was too late. The green sea of AA fire was so fierce that it was like fire descending from heaven, swallowing up the entire Marine fleet. The green fire made a sizzling sound when it touched the sea surface, and the water mist evaporated and spread continuously. A huge fire ring was formed, with flames burning all around, and a flame barrier tens of meters high, trapping the Marine fleet inside. Hiss. Is this the strength of Yulo Kadri's? This flame is really terrifying. It will not be extinguished when exposed to water, and it will continue to evaporate seawater. Who says it isn't? I can feel the heat from so far away. The captains and crew members below were almost dumbfounded. Cha Nin couldn't help but gasp in shock. Oh no, it was hot air. Everyone was talking about it and felt very excited. The funny thing was that they were still wiping sweat. Golden Lion Shiki and Whitebeard Newgate have become accustomed to it, and they returned to normal after being shocked. Logia Devil Fruit, is it so scary? Shiki couldn't help but smacked his mouth twice and sighed. Gu la la la, Shiki, it depends on who developed it. It's not surprising if it's Yulo. Newgate laughed happily and praised Yulo without hesitation. Even Rock's eyes were filled with surprise. He didn't expect Yulo to be able to develop such a powerful skill. Yulo witnessed everything and his goal was achieved. He turned around and jumped from the air, landing steadily back on the pirate ship. Yulo sat down, leaned on the boat, stretched, and said, "Let's go." He wanted to take a rest when he retreated, but the system triggered a mission check-in, so he postponed it until now. Retreat. Rox waved his hand, and the 5 pirate ships cut through the waves and quickly left the hot sea. The atmosphere on the Rox pirate ship is extremely cheerful. Not only did he successfully seize the heavenly gold, but he also failed Marine's conspiracy. The last move, burning the city with fire, is even more exciting. Yulo, you are such a pervert, your strength has improved so fast. Shiki's tone of approval was mixed with a hint of envy. Who would not envy such a terrifying talent? Now Yulo has the strength of Newgate and Shiki. Shiki, you can say I'm a genius, are very strong and handsome, but don't say I'm a pervert. Yulo finally managed to be quiet for a while. After hearing Shiki's words, he twitched the corner of his mouth and said through gritted teeth. It's not impossible to say that my talent is pervert, but I have to be said to be a pervert. Is this really good? Oh, I got it. Shiki waved his hand casually, not listening to what Yulo said at all. In his opinion, these are not important, he is too lazy to care about them. Trouble. Yulo, that move that burned the city with fire just now was your newly developed skill. Why don't you take the initiative to attack despite looking so spectacular? At this time, Newgate asked curiously. He saw that the sea of AAA fire did not burn Garp, so he thought that if it was used for siege, it could completely cover armament hockey and break through. Newgate's question immediately attracted Shiki, and even Rox pricked up his ears. They witnessed the entire process of this move. In addition to not burning Garp, the temperature, momentum, and range are all considered a unique skill. Yulo couldn't help but smile. It was just a skill, he had many more, so it didn't hurt to say it. This move was just developed by me, and it's the same as Nugatia's use of Cloud Cut to activate the shaking force. I felt that the black knife could also be used as a medium to activate Qinglian's inner fire, so I gave it a try, and unexpectedly it was successful. Yulo found an entry point and made up a random paragraph. Rox, Newgate, Shiki nodded repeatedly. The main function of burning a city is to besiege it, and the second is to attack. Forming a wall of flames, it is like wrapping a palm around the marine fleet. Once it breaks through forcefully from the inside, it will be pursued by the flames. Judging from the amount I just released, it won't be a problem to burn it for a long time. Yulo thought about the instructions for using this move and continued. Gia ha ha ha, that's it. First guess Marine has already broken through internally by now. Glala lala, I really want to see what Sengoku's expression looks like now. Shiki and Newgate suddenly realized and laughed. The monstrous sea of AA fire enveloped the marine fleet like a giant palm, making the entire fleet unable to advance or retreat. The scorching airwaves continued to attack the marine soldiers, and the air was steaming like a sealed steamer. All the soldiers were dripping with sweat and their clothes were soaked. Some of the weaker ones had lost moisture in their bodies faster and had begun to have dry mouths and dizziness. Seeing the condition of their companions, the other soldiers couldn't help but panic. They were slightly stronger, but it was only a matter of time, and they would become like this before long. Damn it. Garp and Zephyr were so angry that they gritted their teeth, veins popped out on their faces, and they clenched their fists tightly. These are their soldiers, and this situation cannot last long. Big Buddha shockwave. Sengoku directly transformed into a golden Buddha, and he wanted to use the shockwave to disperse the sea of AAA fire. The giant palm was pushed forward, and violent energy fluctuations hit the sea of AAA fire. The flames were blown away, and a large hole appeared. However, the next moment, flames came from both sides, filling the hole in an instant, and 2 streams of fire even hit Sengoku. Seeing this, Sengoku dispersed the flow of fire, with a gloomy expression on his face, and released the great Buddha form. The glimmer of hope the marine soldiers had was instantly shattered. This green fire seems to be flowing in an endless stream. I'm afraid it won't work if I try to break it up. Zephyr, who had witnessed everything, said in a deep voice. He had the same idea as Sengoku just now, but now it seems that it is no longer possible. The most incredible thing is that even after being exposed to seawater for a while, it has not been extinguished yet. Having seen the scorching heat of Qinglian's inner fire, Garp couldn't help but say. Suddenly, Garp's words gave Sengoku an idea, and he shouted loudly. Everyone obeys the order. All soldiers below the Vice Admiral will go into the sea, and non-demon fruit power will help demon fruit power and swim out of the water. Garp and Zephyr were anxious, their minds were shaken, and they hurriedly urged. Act now. The marine soldiers were in panic and despair, but the words of Sengoku, Garp and Zephyr were ringing in their ears, giving them hope, and they took action quickly. When people are at a critical moment of life and death, they are often very efficient. In just tens of seconds, all the marine soldiers jumped into the sea. Only 6 Vice Admiral, Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr and the unconscious Crane were left on the warship. Armament hockey has full coverage, we rush out directly. Sengoku glanced at everyone and said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded heavily. They all have mid-level armament hockey, which can burn and roast them for a short period of time without causing too much damage to them. As for those ordinary marine soldiers, very few have primary armament hockey, and most of them have not yet understood it at all, so they can only use this strategy to let them dive into the water and swim out. Originally, the operation failed and 1/3 of the troops were lost, which was already a great shame and humiliation for Sengoku and others. If the entire army is wiped out during the retreat, it is estimated that they will not be able to hold their heads up in marine in the future. Everyone urged armament hockey with all their strength, jumped through the sea of AAA fire, and broke through to the outside of the sea of AAA fire. Contact naval headquarters immediately and dispatch a response fleet. Sengoku looked at the soldiers surfacing one after another, his voice trembling. On the one hand, the marine soldiers survived the disaster, and on the other hand, the phone bugs called back, completely announcing the failure of their operation. The 2 ships of Sky Gold that were robbed were the dereliction of duty of all marines in the operation. After Sengoku finished speaking, everyone hesitated. Upon seeing this, Garp stepped forward and handed the unconscious Crane to Zephyr. Then he took out a phone and dialed. AAAA. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. 2 warships returned with everyone from Sengoku. After the warship docked, the Marine Headquarters quickly responded to the wounded. Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp, Crane, with heavy steps and anxious moods, headed to Marine Marshal Kong's office. Crane had woken up from his coma, but he was a little weak. She has always been calm, but now she still feels palpitations when she thinks of the cyan flames. Flames of that kind of temperature are simply the nemesis of the fruit-washing ability. The 4 of them came to the door of the marshal's office and were waiting to knock on the door when Kong's voice came out. Enter. It was not difficult to hear the suppressed anger in the voice. The 4 of them looked at each other and finally pushed the door open and entered. As soon as you enter, you can feel the heavy and depressing atmosphere in the air. Kong sat at his desk, his expression terrifyingly gloomy. What do you do for food? Forget the failure of the operation, even 2 ships of gold in the sky were taken away. 1/3 of the force and 7 warships were lost. Even Crane was injured and unconscious. Can't he even protect his own companions? After the 4 people entered the office, Kong couldn't suppress his inner anger and became irritable. The 4 people, who had been mentally prepared, still couldn't bear the physical and mental shock. Sengoku at the front covered his face, wiping the spit from his face while covering up. They knew Kong's anger in their hearts, and even if they felt a little aggrieved, they endured it silently. There was silence in the office for a while before Kong's irritable mood subsided. He took a deep breath to calm down and asked. How is your injury? No matter how much he reprimanded the 4 people, it was just to vent the anger in his heart. Kong's condolences relieved the atmosphere in the office. My body is not seriously injured, it's just that my consciousness was shocked and I was temporarily comatose. Crane answered truthfully. That's good. Kong breathed a sigh of relief. They are Marine's future. If any one of them has an accident, it will be Marine's loss. Crane's words reassured Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr. To them, the Crane is an important companion. Sit down. Then, Kong spoke. Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr, Crane, sat down honestly. That newcomer Yulo, is his strength really as terrifying as you say? Kong, who got the news from the phone bug, still didn't believe it because he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. Kong made repeated arrangements for this operation. In order to ensure that Rox would retreat after discovering the trap, he even arranged 2 ships of heavenly gold. Even if Rox discovered it, he might not retreat easily. For this reason, Naval Headquarters was ready to provide support, but unexpectedly, news of the failure of the operation came. Garp and Zephyr couldn't do anything about it. He's image phone bug and I recorded the entire process of the action, but his image ended after she fell into coma, and I recorded what happened next. Sengoku smiled bitterly and took out 2 delicate phone bugs from his arms. Play it for me quickly. Kong almost became angry. Why didn't you take out the video earlier? You had to wait for me to ask you for it. The image phone bug starts playing the video. The scene at the beginning was of green fire lotus falling from the sky, covering the entire marine fleet. Is this the new guy Yulo's move? Kong narrowed his eyes and asked Sengoku. Yes, it is made of a kind of cyan flame. The temperature of this flame is extremely high, even volcanic magma cannot reach it. Sengoku explained. Kong's eyes also froze, and he kept staring at the video being played. The screen flashed quickly, and Zephyr was suppressed in the battle, and the crane was knocked unconscious with one move, until the city was burned down in the end, and the sea of AAA fire trapped the entire marine fleet. The video ended here. The office was silent, Kong was silent, Sengoku and others sat silently without disturbing. Yulo's fighting prowess shocked Kong, whose swordsmanship was at the level of a great swordsman. Ultra-high temperature cyan flame, can a young man do this? Joined Rox Pirate a month ago to suppress Kadri Ochaku. Although Ochaku has a bad reputation, his strength is not very strong. In the past battles, Garp and Zephyr did not kill Ochaku, but they also defeated it. In just 1 month, the strength can be improved to the point where Suppressor and Garp are evenly matched. Kong realizes that this Yulo poses a threat second only to Rox. If given time, he will surpass Rox sooner or later. This Yulo is too much of a threat to Marine. Post a reward later, Kong said solemnly, but there was nothing that could be done for the time being. Except for the Marine Admiral, no one can stop Yulo for now. What about the 2 ships of heavenly gold? Sengoku asked reluctantly. Garp, Zephyr, and Crane also looked at Kong. HMPH. It's time to report it to Marie Joyce. Kong snorted coldly and then changed the subject. But fortunately, I didn't inform the 5 elders about this operation. I only reported the news that the Rox Pirate had stolen the heavenly gold. Marie Joy. World government, where the power lies. A spacious conference room. What? Rox Pirate. 2 ships of heavenly gold were robbed. What do you Marines do for food? A blond old man in a dark red suit shouted angrily. The other 4 old men were also angry and looked ugly. Blatantly attacking the marine fleet and snatching the gold from the sky is a slap in the face of celestial dragons, and it does not take the world government into consideration at all. Sengoku, Zephyr, and he stood in front of the 5 powerful people and received their training honestly. Garp hates celestial dragons. Even if it is Marie Joyce, he still won't come. After the 3 were scolded by Kong at Naval Headquarters, they came to Marie Joyce and were scolded by the 5 elders. But this is still a good thing. If the 5 elders knew about the failure of this operation, they would not have reprimanded them alone, but all 5 of them together. Marine represents world government, but now it has lost all face. The gold in the sky has been lost. It's useless to scold them anymore. Let's think about how to deal with the Rox Pirate. The Rox Pirate is getting stronger day by day, and Rox D. With nearly 10 officers on board, plus the talented newcomer Kaido, the Rox Pirate is no longer weaker than the world government. That monster Yulo will definitely grow up to surpass Rox and become a huge threat. If Rox Pirate is allowed to continue to grow and develop, it will be even more difficult to deal with them. The 5 old men each expressed their opinions and began to discuss. After a few words, their faces became more solemn. Sengoku, Zephyr, and Crane stood silently like air. As the 5 elders talked, they unknowingly turned from scolding Marine to dealing with Rox Pirate. They are worthy of being the 5 people who stand at the pinnacle of power. They can see the essence of things from the surface. Now in Rox Pirate, in addition to the veteran cadres, new pirates have also begun to grow. The trend is faster than Marine's new recruits, which is not a good sign. If not killed in time, these newcomers will pose a threat to the rule of the world government after they fully rise. Let's put down the matter of Tianshangjian for the time being. We won't let the families above go to Marine to trouble him, but Marine will have to make amends for it later. The 5 people looked at each other, and they had the same mind, and a bald old man said. After all, Marine is the face of world government, and Sengoku, Zephyr, and Crane are Marine's hope for the future. I can only scold them and let it go. After all, they will always be used. Marine made a good decision some time ago, gradually shifting its focus to New World. But this is not enough. Tell Kong to recall the 2 admirals, Phylong and Dihu, and let them contribute again before they retire. As for that Yulo, issue a reward order with a reward of 1.5 billion. The most majestic of the 5 old men said to Sengoku, Zephyr, Crane. Afterwards, the 5 people explained some things, and then the eviction order was issued. Sengoku, Zephyr, and Suru hurried back to Naval Headquarters. The next day, Naval Headquarters issued a bounty order for Yulo. At the same time, Kong published the news about the Sky Gold being robbed in the news agency. There is no way, in order to cover up this failed action, Kong can only change from passive to active. The news agency printed it as soon as possible and arranged for newsbirds to deliver the newspaper to every corner of the sea. Newsbirds search the sea for land and ships, landing on ships when they see them. Some unknown pirates handed Bailey over in exchange for newspapers. Every day is just trivial things. I hope today's ones are a little interesting. A pirate took the newspaper and couldn't help but complain. He stayed at the sea all day, tired and bored, so he looked forward to reading newspapers for fun. However, Naval Headquarters and some pirate groups appear in the exact same location every day, as if they paid for their location. The key is that there is nothing serious, what to eat every day, what content to train, this needs to be discussed every day. Suddenly, a piece of paper fell out of the newspaper. When the pirate saw it, he saw that it was a reward notice. Yulo. Never heard of that. Hiss. 10, 1.5 billion. He was a little confused at first, and then took a breath. He stared at the reward amount so hard that his eyes almost popped out. So much bounty amount, what on earth did you do? And who is this Yulo? With excitement, he opened the newspaper. Holy crap, Rock's pirate stole the gold. New cadre Yulo, are you so young? What he saw was so unbelievable that he felt like he was in a dream. I just complained that you are boring, and you just do it with such force, I feel like my heart can't bear it. This scene keeps happening on the sea. Rock's pirate snatched the gold from the sky. Newcomer Yulo knocked Crane unconscious, suppressed Zephyr, and was evenly matched with Garp. As well as the 1.5 billion Baileys on the bounty and Yulo's young figure. Marine is in trouble this time. It's okay in paradise, but in New World you can't even see gold in the sky. That's gold in the sky. I guess only Rock's pirate dares and has the strength to steal it. Speaking of which, Yulo, the new cadre, offered a reward of 1.5 billion for the first time, which is incredible. Yes, look at the photo, you are too young. The pirates were all shocked, and Rock's pirate and Yulo also became the topic of conversation after dinner. New World's Roger Pirates. Bullet took the newspaper, a flash of shock suddenly flashed across his face, and then the fighting spirit in his heart was aroused. Fighting and defeating the strong is his pursuit. Bullet. You want to fight again? Roger's top observation Hockey noticed Bullet's changes and turned around to ask. I think Rayleigh wants to hit people more. Bullet came to his senses, handed the newspaper to Roger, and said calmly. Roger was a little puzzled. He took the newspaper and read it. His pupils shrank first, and then he burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, Rayleigh, I'm afraid you won't be able to get revenge. The laughter attracted Rayleigh and Jabba, who stepped forward and took a look at the newspaper. How is that possible? It's only been half a month. This Yulo is indeed a monster. Jabba was the first to exclaim, the content was really incredible. Rayleigh was also surprised and couldn't help but touch his head. His face darkened at this touch. The Rock's pirate is getting stronger and stronger, and Rock's ambitions are gradually exposed, and now it has begun to take action against the world government. As the think tank of the Roger Pirates, Rayleigh was not impulsive, but said in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions became solemn. Rayleigh looked at Roger and said, the Rock's pirate is like an overlord in the New World. If you want to become the Pirate King, you must get rid of Rocks. Everyone was silent, waiting for Roger to speak. Ha 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 ha, please believe me, I am the man who wants to become the Pirate King. Roger smiled, his laughter revealing determination. At sea, as word spread, everyone knew about Yulo, the newcomer to Rock's pirate. A young man whose first bounty reached 1.5 billion belly. At this time, all Rock's pirates' ships were floating in the clouds. And everyone gathered on the two ships transporting gold from the sky. In addition to treasures, there are also exotic fruits, precious wines, and rare specialties from various countries in the gold in the sky, so a banquet was held. Yulo was in a very good mood at this time, drinking wine and eating fruit, looking like he was enjoying himself. Secretly, he was checking the system prompts. Ding. The mission was successfully checked in. Get rewarded. Advanced use of 6 postures, complete encyclopedia of physical skills. The reward has been automatically awarded to the host. When Yulo saw this reward, he couldn't help but feel overjoyed. It was truly a mission check in reward, and it certainly did not disappoint him. The so-called 6 styles are a secret physical technique of the world government. It is said to be a physical technique that surpasses the limits of human physical ability. However, there are strict learning conditions, that is, strong physical fitness. On this basis, it has been learned through hard work. If you learn them all, even the demon fruit power will be able to fight. Garp and Zephyr are masters of physical skills. Even without Devil Fruit's ability, he can compete with him on a par. In addition to Grandmaster Hockey, 6 styles also played a huge role. As for the Encyclopedia of Physical Arts, it goes without saying that everyone knows what it is. Now Yulo, in addition to Devil Fruit ability, swordsmanship, and hockey, plus physical skills, it can be said that he has no major shortcomings. Gia ha ha ha, Yulo, you are doing something extraordinary this time. Golden Lion Shiki took a swig of wine and waved the newspaper and reward order in his hand at Yulo. It has Yulo's young figure printed on it, as well as the reward amount of 1.5 billion belly. La 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 la, Marine is really shameless. They actually concealed the failure of their operation this time and only reported that the gold in the sky was robbed by us. I didn't expect that Marine would risk everything for Yulo this time. Newgate also laughed and scolded Marine, in order to make Yulo's bounty convincing enough. Marine had no choice but to expose the matter of Tiantianjin being robbed. I am now famous all over the world. Yulo came back to his senses and chuckled. Marine issued a reward for him, and his reputation began to spread on the sea. Now the whole sea knows that Rock's pirate has a talented and powerful new cadre named Yulo. However, he did not think that Marine exposed the incident of Tianjin being stolen because of him. The matter involving heavenly gold definitely alarmed the world government. The 5 powerful old men in Marie Joy's are all visionaries. I'm afraid its real purpose is to rob the Rock's pirate of heavenly gold. After all, he knew the outcome of Rock's. Now it's just a matter of staying at Rock's pirate. Not only him, but also Shiki, Newgate and many others. I didn't expect that the first reward would be 1.5 billion. You are truly worthy of Yulo. It seems Marine has begun to focus on you now. Shiki and Newgate sighed. Yulo's bounty is indeed incredible. You must know that the reward for him was 1.5 billion for the first time, which was the first time in the ocean. Even the bounties of Shiki, Newgate, and even Rocks were raised one after another. It seems that they also have to work hard to improve their strength. Otherwise, with Yulo's talent, he will probably surpass them next time he improves. I was also a little surprised. I didn't expect it to be 1.5 billion. Yulo glanced at the newspaper in the reward order and said excitedly. Now with a reward of 1.5 billion, he can be considered a real big pirate. World government and naval headquarters recognized their strength and threats. The captains and crew members looked at Yulo with respect. They all watched Yulo become stronger with their own eyes, from joining Rock's pirate a month ago to now having a bounty of 1.5 billion. Yulo has become the strong man they dreamed of becoming. In their eyes, Yulo is a role model and a god-like existence. Yulo, YYDS. At this time, Rocks came out of the cabin and said. Yulo, Shiki, Newgate, you come in with me. Yulo heard the words and stood up, together with Shiki and Newgate. Under countless envious looks, he followed Rocks into the cabin. It is indeed a ship that transports gold from the sky. There are 3 gates just to enter. Yulo passed through 3 safety doors and suddenly felt a little dazzling. At first glance, I saw that they were all gold jewelry. So many, Yulo muttered, his eyes almost popping out of his head. I have to say, it is worthy of heavenly gold. Unless you have seen it with your own eyes, you will never know how poverty can really limit your imagination. The value of the treasures in front of me is probably worth 10 of him. No need to be shocked, these are the lowest value. The further you go inside, the higher the value. Rox walked at the front and said without looking back. Captain Rox is right. These are what ordinary sailors need. Everything we need is inside. Golden Lion Shaki said, showing a hint of greed. The things outside are nothing more than treasures. He has been a member of Rox Pirate for so long and has accumulated quite a lot of treasures. The gold in the sky is very rich. What these cadres really need are devil fruit, famous swords, etc., things that can enhance the strength of their men. The four of them continued walking forward and entered a cabin filled with iron cages. The slave inside was wearing a collar, his hands were cuffed, and his eyes were lifeless. These slaves include men and women, snake men, fishmen, and even a few pirates with bounties on their heads. Yulo, who had no reaction in the face of the mountains of corpses and seas of blood, felt disgusted at this moment. Not for these slaves, but for the celestial dragons. At this time, the rocks in front stopped. Do you need these slaves? If Ida not needed, leave it to someone else. He glanced around, finally looking at Shaki, Newgate, and Yulo. The three of them shook their heads without hesitation, saying that they didn't need it. Rox nodded slightly in response and continued deeper. Shaki and Newgate's ships are not lacking in this kind of combat power. Instead of taking over them, it would be better to go to sea and recruit some pirates. Yulo had no feeling at all about what happened to these slaves. Those who can be captured as slaves are weak people. The world of pirates is like this. If Yulo is weak, the end will not be much better than them. Now taken over by Rox Pirate, they still face the fate of cannon fodder. The three of Yulo followed Rox and continued moving forward. Going to the deepest point, there is a much smaller room. There are 5 small boxes and 2 weapon racks with various weapons hanging on them. The things here are what we need. There was obvious excitement in Shiki's eyes. These are devil fruit, famous knives and some high-quality weapons. It is of great use to Shaki, who has always wanted to establish a pirate group. Some of the crew members he values have reached a bottleneck in strength, or their weapons are junk, which affects the performance of their strength. A good devil fruit can quickly break through bottlenecks and improve your strength, and can also be used to cultivate potential newcomers. Good weapons can also display extraordinary strength in battle. But these are rare things that can only be found in daily life. Fortunately, Shaki met Jinli in the sky. Devil fruit and famous sword? Yulo and Newgate looked at this calmly. Devil fruit has too many flaws. After experiencing the devil fruit produced by the system, Yulo has no interest in it. I'm not very interested in famous swords. After all, no matter how good the sword is, can it be as strong as the ancestor of the Black Sword? As for Newgate, he has yet to meet his real family. The people on the boat are at best subordinates, and they may break up at some point. Why bother working so thanklessly for their sake? The three of you contributed the most to this operation, especially Yulo's battle, which inspired the crew. Shaki and Newgate, you two each choose a devil fruit and a weapon. As for Yulo, he has given us too many surprises. Take a devil fruit and 1 more for weapons. You don't have any objections? Rox turned around and said with a smile. This operation has been very fruitful, so it is natural that the spoils should be divided well after the war. The cadres on the other side were unlucky and did not contribute much, so naturally they had no share. Let Shaki and Newgate get 2 pieces each, and Yulo got 3 pieces. Gia ha ha ha. I, Shaki, have no objection. Gu la la la. Boy Yulo, we are just preparing to recruit crew members. Shaki and Newgate said in unison, laughed, and expressed no objection. They all saw Yulo's performance, were shocked in their hearts, and had to accept it. All I can say is, Ida's really strong. Yulo also nodded. What opinion could he have? Since you want to give more rocks, just keep it. Anyway, I have an inventory, so I can fit in more. Seeing that the 3 of them had no objections, Rox nodded with satisfaction and moved away from the seat in front of him. Sure enough, the majesty of my rocks is unrivaled. Yulo, Shaki and Newgate came to the 5 small boxes and opened them one by one. At this time, do all of you here feel an inexplicable sense of expectation? 5 strange-shaped devil fruits with intricate patterns come into view. There is also a corresponding devil fruit illustrated book on the top of the opened box. There's not even a logia. Yulo glanced at it, a little disappointed. 2 paramecia, 3 zone, how precious I thought they were. When Golden Lion Shaki heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly and shouted. Yulo boy, You think Logia is a cabbage and think everyone is as lucky as you. Yulo pursed his lips and said nothing. I'm not lucky. Lousy is a legendary badass. Gu la la la, Paramisha is pretty good too. I'll take this shiny fruit. While Newgate smiled, he picked up a Paramisha fruit. Yulo was slightly startled. Shiny fruit. Isn't this the fruit of Diamond, Josie, the future captain of the 3rd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates? In Summit War, it was indeed a good devil fruit to block the slashing attack of Mahawk, the world's greatest swordsman. Seeing this, Shaki glanced at Yulo warily, and hurriedly picked up the 2nd Paramisha devil fruit, fearing that Yulo would beat him to it. Shaki is more optimistic about Paramisha than Zone. Yulo didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he took a Zone devil fruit. Then the 3 of them came to the weapons rack. Yulo looked at the sword on the shelf with a little interest. These 9 knives include 6 good and sharp knives and 3 fast knives. However, these 3 large sharp knives are not among the 21 craftsmen. They are new forged knives. Compared with the 21 craftsmen that have gone through thousands of tempers, there is still a big gap. Rox spoke up to explain. Kang. Yulo held the scabbard and pulled it out gently, and a cold light burst out. Clang. Flicking the blade, a soft groan sounded. Indeed, these knives have not been tempered by sword energy and hockey, and their hardness and sharpness are much worse. But it looks pretty good, with a dark blue scabbard and a sky blue zigzag pattern on the blade. Shaki had quick eyesight and quick hands. He quickly took a handful and gestured in his hand. Shaki, are you really okay with this? Yulo was speechless. Yulo took one and handed it to Newgate, then chose a good sharp knife. After the 3 of them divided the spoils, Rox naturally accepted the rest. Yulo returned to his room, and the devil fruit and the famous sword were put into his inventory. Huh. I'm finally free. By the way, I haven't clocked in today yet. Yulo let out a long sigh of relief and his mind sank into his system. System, check in daily. Ding. I successfully clocked in today. Host gets a reward. The weapon is strengthened once. Yulo, who had been lying down, suddenly sat up. Originally, he had no hope of clocking in daily, it was just a matter of habit. I didn't expect that this time I would be successful. Could it be that I have become more handsome? It was natural to use it after it came out. Yulo didn't even think about whether he could keep it for the new year. System, strengthen weapons. Ding. Please host choose the weapon that needs to be strengthened. Yulo was startled. He just subconsciously thought of his own 1001 nights. Now the system prompts that he also has a quasi-fast knife. 1001 Nights is already the ultimate sharp sword, which is completely sufficient in the world of pirates. If he enhanced 1001 Nights into a magical weapon, then he would be too foul. Yulo thought for a while and decided to strengthen the quasi-sharp knife he just obtained. Ding. Strengthening successful. Congratulations to host. This sword has been tempered by lightning and has become a top-notch sharp sword. Yulo was overjoyed when he heard this. He loved the efficiency of the system. He took the knife out of the inventory. It still looked the same, except that it looked good and was ordinary. But when Yulo pulled out, there were actually traces of arcs lingering on the blade, exuding a destructive aura. Yulo exuded a hint of sword intent, and the blade suddenly buzzed, and the arc crackled. Ha 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 ha. Good knife, good knife. From today on, I'll call you Rakery. Shaki has developed Lion Fruit's abilities extremely well. The speed of ships sailing in high altitude is much faster than that on the sea. It didn't take long for Beehive Island to appear in sight. At this time, many people gathered on the coast, including John, Silver Axe, Ochaku, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido, Sha-Chi, Mr. Five and others. John, who regarded wealth as his life, was a little excited, with greed in his eyes. Although they did not encounter the heavenly gold, Rox and his party managed to grab 2 ships of the heavenly gold. He may have received a little less if he didn't contribute, but it was gold from the sky. Even if it was a little less, it would still be more than what he had accumulated in the past 6 months. Ochaku and Kaido's expressions were extremely ugly. The news about Rox snatching gold from the sky and the reward orders issued by naval headquarters have already spread all over the sea, so naturally they have seen them all. Yulo's record and bounty severely destroyed their self-esteem and confidence. Although they felt unbelievable in their hearts, the 2 of them knew it. World government and marine will not make fun of their own face and prestige. At this time, the clouds in the sky dispersed. 7 large ships fell down and docked slowly on the shore. Are these 2 marine transport ships filled with gold from the sky? It is indeed gold from the sky. It needs such a big ship to carry it. How much treasure must there be? When the gathered pirates saw this, they couldn't help but marvel, with infinite desire in their eyes. Rox stepped off the boat, followed by Yulo, Shiki, and Newgate. He looked at the pirates in front of him, laughed, and raised his arms. You guys, you've moved gold from the sky. Of course, such a huge amount of treasure cannot be kept on the ship forever. Beehive Island is the base camp of Rox Pirate. Everyone has their own small vaults, all hidden on the island. Wow, Captain Rox is awesome. Brothers, take action. Rox's order was given, and the pirates all looked excited, dancing with their hands and feet, as if they were crazy, and rushed towards the 2 ships of sky gold. Even John, the cadre, raised his feet and prepared to rush over. Yulo was speechless about this. He was really a money-obsessed person, and his fate in the future was worthy of his character. John, you don't have to go. Rox noticed John's movement and stopped him. For a greedy person like John, I just let him go. As long as it can be used by him, it doesn't matter. Ha 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 ha, John, don't disgrace our cadres. In the last meeting, Mr. 5, the cadre who mocked John for his greed, seized the opportunity and mocked him again. After hearing Rox's words, John froze, retracted his steps, and laughed dryly. What do you know? You know nothing at all. Then he glared at Mr. 5 and said angrily. Lousy doesn't dare to antagonize Rox. Why doesn't he dare to antagonize you? I will antagonize you to death. HMPH. Mr. 5 snorted coldly, not bothering to pay attention to him. Just leave these to the people below. All cadres gather in the conference hall now. After Rox finished speaking, all the cadres followed him and headed towards the Skull Castle. As for whether the pirates carrying the gold from the sky would steal the treasure, he didn't have to worry at all. His people would be watching the whole process. What's more, everyone knows what will happen, and no one who is not stupid would do this. In the conference hall, Yulo, Shiki, Newgate and others took their seats one after another. The 2 cadres who had ridiculed Yulo at the last meeting cast approving glances. If Yulo had not made any contribution before, he was questioned and crowded out among the cadre groups. But after experiencing the Tianshangjian incident, Yulo made enough contributions and proved his strength. Now, he is sitting in the position of a cadre, and his reputation is justified. Even Ochaku didn't have any objections. Rox said nothing and looked at everyone. Everyone was also silent. No one knew what each other was thinking. After a long time, the atmosphere reached its peak, and Rox slowly said. Silver Axe, let's briefly talk about your operation. Silver Axe nodded slightly and spoke. We have a marine fleet here, and the leaders are only a few vice-admirals. There is no heavenly gold at all. In the end, Silver Axe and his team felt a little regretful. If they also grab the heavenly gold, they can get a bigger share. Mr. 5, a thin man, had a flash of eyes. Except for Mr. 5, the other people present did not realize that the matter was not simple. They felt that Marine had just created a front fleet to deceive others. Only Rox, Yulo, Shiki, Newgate knew. Among the 9 officers present, there was Marine's mole. There is no need for you to be disappointed. You will certainly have a share of these 2 ships of gold in the sky. Rox observed everyone's reaction and then said generously. He didn't mention it in public, firstly to avoid alerting the enemy, and secondly to let the traitor reveal his true self. Rox and his team were ambushed by Marine without any suspicion at all, which will inevitably lead to speculation about the insider. In addition, I just received news that this action has angered the world government. Naval Headquarters has recalled the 2 admirals Phylong and Dihu. Immediately afterwards, Rox made the information obtained from the underground world public. These 2 old guys are back. Ochaku, John, Silver Axe and others' expressions changed and they spoke solemnly. These 2 are both difficult beings. The 3 of them were the first members to join Rox Pirate. In the past few years, it was these 2 who led Marine into frequent battles with them. It was not until later that Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr, and Crane grew up rapidly and rose up in Marine. Kong decided to train and reuse 4 people, and Admiral, Phylong and Dihu, was old and approaching retirement. Then let Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr, and Crane take over the tasks of the 2 admirals, Phylong and Dihu. They are quite difficult to deal with. There was a flash of fear in Ochaku's eyes. At the beginning, he was arrogant and boasted of his extraordinary strength. As a result, He was beaten to the point of running away like crazy, unable to fight back. After being hunted for 3 days and 3 nights, Rocks finally rescued him. Compared to Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp, and Crane who are nearing their peak, these 2 admirals who have been at their peak for more than 30 years are undoubtedly more difficult to deal with. Marine's move is undoubtedly to target us. Phylong, Dihu, and the Snow Leopard Admiral who is stationed at Naval Headquarters, Marine's high-level combat power has been assembled. Rock's words have always revolved around Marine. Jia ha 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 ha, we were afraid that Marine would fail, and we had long wanted to compete with Phylong. Let's see how much this old dragon's strength has regressed. Golden Lion Shiki laughed loudly, hearing that the Flying Dragon Admiral had returned aroused the fighting spirit in his heart. Playing against Admiral, the sense of pressure and excitement can make his strength improve by leaps and bounds. Otherwise, it would be Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr every time, and they would be equally matched, which would make no sense at all. Shiki is right. We are the strongest pirate group. How can we be afraid of Marine? However, Marine is now heavily guarded and it will not be conducive to launching operations in the near future. Everyone should go back and improve their strength. Rocks looked at the cadres leaving one after another, tapping his fingers on the table. Boom. 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 Marine, the mole, haha. It seems that I have a surprise in store for you. For a long time, Rocks smiled, meaningfully and then became ferocious. How could the overlord of the New World just give up? Yulo and others came out of the conference hall. Under the guidance of the cadres headed by John, the stolen goods were distributed according to the ratio set by Rocks. Yulo, Shiki, and Newgate, in addition to the treasures they received before, they also have their share of the treasure. Yulo watched from the sidelines, and the other cadres received the most, not even half as much as him. This is probably why they did not do their best. Still looking silly and happy, dusk falls. A bonfire was lit on Beehive Island. How could the Rocks pirate not hold a banquet to celebrate after grabbing the gold in the sky? This banquet was much more casual and did not gather according to strength and status. All the cadres sat casually on the ground with their captains and crew members, drinking, eating, and chatting. Yulo and Shiki, as well as Newgate, sat drinking together. Jia ha ha ha, Yulo boy, you have made the greatest contribution to robbing the heavenly gold this time. The position of cadre is justifiable. Golden Lion Shiki, smoking heavily and drinking heavily. With boundless power, he laughed and was happy for Yulo. Gu la la la. Their reaction in the meeting just now was very different from before. Whitebeard Newgate drank a bottle of wine directly, showing his heroic spirit while laughing. You know the last meeting, but several cadres were secretly unhappy. After word spread about Yulo's record and bounty in this operation, their attitude was completely different from before. Especially Ochaku couldn't stand Yulo, but he looked helpless and aggrieved. It simply made Newgate feel so happy that he secretly chuckled. Haha. A group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. It's just that I am stronger than them. Yulo seemed much calmer. He drank a small glass of wine and smiled with great confidence. In response to Yulo's words, Shiki and Newgate nodded. They think Yulo is right. To put it bluntly, he relies on his fists to speak. Yulo has talent and strength from beginning to end, but he just keeps a low profile and is too lazy to get to know them. Until this action, he announced his strength to everyone. Faced with the power of such a strong man, they naturally did not dare to say anything more. Yulo, I see you are too lazy to form a fleet, so why not just stay on my ship? When I form a pirate group in the future, you will be the only vice captain. At this time, Shiki, who was smoking and drinking, suddenly said. Offered an olive branch to Yulo. Time waits for no one. In just 1 month, Yulo became a world-famous pirate. He is no longer a newcomer who has just joined Rock's pirate and needs to learn skills and improve his strength with him. As early as when he saw Yulo's talent, Shiki was planning to keep Yulo. But at that time, he felt it was too early, and he would wait until Yulo got along with him on the boat for some time. What he didn't expect was that Yulo's current strength was no weaker than him. If he didn't speak up, after Yulo surpassed him, what qualifications would he have to invite someone stronger than himself to be the vice captain? Shiki, thank you for your kindness, but I refuse. Yulo blurted out without thinking at all, but his words were a little more tactful. I have to say that Shiki and Newgate helped him a lot, and the 3 of them got along very comfortably. But Yulo joined Rock's pirate just to improve his strength and use it as a springboard to reach the top of the sea. A month has passed and he is no longer weaker than Shiki. Before Rock's pirate was disbanded, he could stay on Shiki's ship. After Rock's pirate disbanded, Yulo had something ready to do. What's more, when he comes to the world of pirates and wears a cheat, he will not succumb to others. Gia ha ha ha, your answer is exactly what I thought. Shiki felt momentarily disappointed and then became determined. Yulo's refusal this time does not mean that it will be the same next time. He sees Yulo's talent and strength, and sooner or later he will reach the peak of the sea. How could he give up Yulo so easily? If Yulo joins his pirate group, then there is no doubt that the next era will definitely belong to him and Yulo. Shiki, Yulo will surpass you and me sooner or later. Are you going to give up the captaincy to Yulo and make you the deputy captain? In that case, will it still be your Golden Lion Shiki's pirate group? Whitebeard Newgate chuckled and sprayed Shiki's face with the wine in his mouth. He wasn't mocking Shiki, he was telling the truth. Shiki used his swordsmanship advantage to take the lead, but now he never expected it. Yulo is a monster and no one can control him. Newgate doesn't have Shiki's ambitions. He just wants to know his real family, collect a large group of sons, and form a pirate group that is like a family. Shiki was lost in thought, without even wiping the drink on his face. Shiki, don't be discouraged, wait until you can beat me. Seeing this, Yulo comforted him casually. Anyway, it would be even more difficult for Shiki to defeat him now. However, Shiki doesn't think so. Yulo, let's have a fight. Yulo's words made Shiki feel as if he had discovered a new world, his eyes filled with hope. Shiki feels that Yulo should be on par with him. As the saying goes, when we meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. As long as he is brave enough, ruthless enough, and desperate enough, he will definitely succeed. Shiki, so serious. Yulo was stunned, you actually took my words of comfort seriously. Suddenly, Yulo felt that his mouth was really lacking. Even Newgate was stunned and stopped bringing the wine to his mouth. I didn't expect that Golden Lion Shiki could fight like this. Of course, that's how serious it is. Shiki stood up quickly, with a serious look on his face and a fierce fighting spirit. Brave Niu, not afraid of difficulties. Yulo was speechless for a while, and was about to refuse, but then he thought about it, he had to completely cut off Shiki's thoughts. Ding. Trigger mission check-in. Host, please fight Golden Lion Shiki and defeat it. Rewards will be distributed after the task is completed. At this time, the system prompt sounds. Yulo's eyes lit up. The task check-in came at the right time, and it coincided with his own thoughts. Shiki, since you are so serious, I, Yulo, will accompany you to the end. What's more, I've wanted to fight you for a long time, Shiki. Yulo also stood up, his voice serious, resounding throughout the audience. Since Shiki insists on fighting, Yulo will accompany him to fight. This will only temper him and make him stronger. As for Shiki's strength, he witnessed the entire battle with Zephyr. Yulo knew that he could beat Shiki. The movement here immediately attracted the attention of the crew. What's going on? Kadri Yulo is going to duel with Kadri Shiki. It's rare for Kadris to fight duels. Who do you think will win? Shiki must win. Yulo is very strong, but he is too young. You can't win when you're young. What nonsense. Yulo suppressed Zephyr. The nearby crew members talked a lot and began to argue fiercely, with excitement on their faces. The life of a pirate is to fight and plunder, and this is the nature of countless people. Their daily conflicts are resolved through fighting, which often happens in the middle and lower classes of Rock's pirate. Fights between Kadris and Kadris are extremely rare. They have never watched such a rare duel between strong men, but now they have the opportunity. Yulo's challenge made Shiki excited, and he ignored the messy comments. He seemed to have seen that Yulo had become his vice-captain and his time was coming soon. Oh, Shiki. Newgate shook his head and sighed, not knowing what to say. He looked at Shiki, who was full of excitement, with sympathy in his eyes. This guy Shiki is not usually so stupid. Yulo is not that easy to deal with. It's unclear whether Shiki will win or not, but boy Yulo will definitely not lose. Then come on, Yulo, let's see how I can beat you. Shiki's voice was powerful and confident. I am not strong enough, I need experience. Yulo raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but make a provocation. The pirates who were paying attention here heard this and looked at Yulo in surprise. Is it so awesome? This is too arrogant. They all know that Yulo is not weaker than Shiki. But it's not that easy to win, right? Newgate looked at Yulo, who was confident and arrogant. The smell of gunpowder is too strong. The excitement on Shiki's face suddenly turned into solemnity. Yulo, your strength has improved again? Shiki asked in a deep voice. In terms of physical skills, let's make some progress. Yulo chuckled and replied nonchalantly. This time, the corners of Shiki's mouth twitched slightly. Based on his understanding of Yulo, there was only a slight improvement. Then his eyes became serious. He and Newgate knew that they often sparred together. Yulo's only weakness is physical skills. The improvement of Yulo's physical skills means that his strength will also become slightly stronger. Even Newgate, who was watching from the sidelines, had a dignified look in his eyes. I'm afraid this battle will be quite fierce. Newgate couldn't help but look forward to it. Yulo always brings great surprises to people, and I don't think he will be disappointed this time. The duel between Yulo and Shiki soon spread on Fengchao Island. The already lively atmosphere suddenly became boiling. The pirates who received the news quickly rushed here. All the cadres were also alerted, and even Rox, who had been staying in the Skull Castle, was attracted by the movement outside. Shiki wants to duel with Yulo. The shouts outside made Rox surprised and curious. Didn't Yulo stay on Shiki's ship all the time? The two seemed to get along well, but why were they suddenly about to start a fight? With inner doubts, Rox released the top observation haki, instantly covering the entire Beehive Island. After a moment, it dawned on Rox. He understood the cause of things through seeing, hearing, and feeling. He didn't take it seriously that Shiki wanted Yulo to be the vice captain. It is normal for people in cadre positions to have no ambition. But that's for the future. Now the Rox pirate will be there as long as he's alive. Then Yulo and Shiki have always been his cadres. Just play a part in his plan to overthrow the world government. He didn't care at all who was on whose ship. However, Rox is still very interested in the duel between the two. After all, he knows Shiki's talent and strength thoroughly. However, the talent and strength that Yulo has shown so far always make him feel that it is not all of Yulo. At this time, the pirates outside had gathered around the three of them. Let's go to the same place. After taking the last sip of strong drink, Shiki was filled with fighting spirit. Yulo nodded and took steps together with Shiki. The pirates who were watching retreated and made way for them. After the two of them arrived at the beach, they shot out in unison and headed towards an uninhabited island. That's where Yulo, Shiki, and Newgate often compete and train. On weekdays, the three of them would even have to compete and train on an uninhabited desert island, let alone this kind of true all-out battle. If the fight starts directly on Fengchao Island, I am afraid that the entire island will cease to exist. The Beehive Island, known as the paradise of pirates and the base camp of Rox Pirate, was destroyed. I am afraid that all pirates will not forgive them. When the pirates' onlookers saw this scene, their blood boiled and they screamed. They were too weak to take off, so they quickly gathered and followed in their big ships. In this duel between cadres, almost all the Rox pirate people came. Dozens of pirate ships surrounded the uninhabited island, watching the battle from all directions. More than 10 black shadows flashed across the sky and landed steadily on the main ship at the front. Surprisingly, there are Captain Rox, Kadri John, Ochaku, Silver Axe, Mr. Five, Charlotte Linlin and others, as well as several talented and powerful newcomers such as Kaido. Hi, Captain Rox. He's here too. I'm going. There are also cadres, everyone is here. Do the captain and officers take this battle so seriously? All Rox pirate executives were present, and the atmosphere exploded again. Rox and other cadres stared intently at Yulo and Shiki on the desert island. Except for Rox, they all want to see how powerful Yulo, the new monster who has a bounty of 1.5 billion for the first time, has reached. Especially Ochaku and Kaido couldn't help clenching their fists and looking solemnly. As a strong man on the sea, he is never afraid of strong enemies. Only by facing and experiencing Yulo's combat power can the two of them face up to the gap and work hard to find a breakthrough. On a desert island, Yulo and Shiki faced each other. The two of them looked at each other, and the aura exuding from their bodies continued to increase. As the auras emanating from Yulo and Shiki became stronger and stronger, the air seemed to freeze. Everyone watching the battle was shocked. Is it about to begin? Yulo, I'm going to attack. Golden Lion Shiki's feet jumped into the air and his body floated. As he spoke, the ground began to tremble, and the entire desert island seemed to be crumbling. Shiki, come on horseback. Yulo's body was tall and straight, as steady as a mountain, and he spoke calmly. After receiving Yulo's response, Shiki suddenly pulled out Sakuraju and Kumu. Lion Fruit ability activates. Lion Majesty, Earth Coiling. The trembling ground rose. Roar, roar, roar. A deafening roar sounded. 3 huge lion heads made of earth and stone appeared and surrounded Yulo. Facing a strong man like Shiki, even though Yulo was confident, he was not careless at all. 2 green flames flashed in Yulo's solemn eyes. The inner fire of Qinglian in the body flowed, and his feet and even his calves burned. Continuous fire poured into the ground, and the earth began to crack. Wisps of blue flames emerged from the cracks, spreading crazily around. Seeing this, Shiki slashed out a sword energy and then charged towards Yulo. The next moment, ferocious flames shattered 3 lion heads. Qinglian's inner fire broke out of the ground along with the gravel, and for a moment, sand and rocks were flying, and flowing fire swept across. The dust and sand in the sky obscured Yulo's figure. Yulo observation haki was released. A black knife appeared in his hand, and his whole body was shot out. He casually broke Shiki's sword energy and faced him directly. Jia ha ha ha, good time. Shiki looked at Yulo, who rushed out of the sand, laughed, and was filled with sword energy. Shiki, it's my turn. Yulo's fighting spirit was high, and the black knife in his hand kept buzzing. The 2 of them moved extremely fast, like lightning piercing the sky. Then, they collided hard. A clang. 1001 Nights in Sakura 10. Collision with dead wood. The 2 sword energies were entangled, and the powerful sword intent soared into the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless sword energy surged around, and the area continued to expand, and the island instantly became riddled with holes. Look, the sky. The sky is cut off. Idiot, that's the clouds parting. This fight would be so spectacular. On the pirate ship moored in the distance, countless crew members were so shocked by their sight that they all exclaimed. When had he ever seen such a spectacular battle scene? Comparing them with each other, it would be no exaggeration to say that the battle between them was like playing house. Is this a battle between strong men? Ochaku and Kaido have been watching, their expressions solemn and silent. Because they know that this is not a full-scale attack, it is just the beginning. Strong fluctuations set off air currents, and Yulo and Shiki stayed in the air, maintaining a collision posture. The 2 looked at each other silently, and what they saw in each other's eyes was nothing but solemnity. As expected, the 2 of them competed frequently, and their pupils shrank in unison. Earth-shaking momentum burst out from the 2 of them. With the 2 people as the center, it spread towards the entire desert island. In an instant, the sky shook and the earth shook, and the wind and clouds surged. The clouds that were originally split into 2 parts of the sky suddenly dispersed. Yulo and Shiki's high-level Conqueror's haki is unleashed at full power. Its power and scope are unprecedented. After covering the desert island, its power remained unabated, sweeping across the surrounding sea. In an instant, the waves rolled, setting off huge waves that rushed in all directions. As this Conqueror's haki, this is so handsome. Many crew members on the pirate ship had envy in their eyes and talked among themselves. Suddenly, a huge wave rushed over, and everyone panicked. When they wanted to take action, the overwhelming momentum of Mount Tai came over, weighing down everyone's bodies and making it difficult to move. Some people even have trouble breathing. The pirates who had been discussing the battle situation suddenly became quiet. The crowd watching the battle was silent. Everyone was silent, looking at the deserted island in shock. Gu la la la, it's really earth-shattering. Newgate, who was watching the battle on the boat ahead, laughed. At the same time, the shock fruit ability is activated, and a white air mass appears on the upper right. Then a punch hit the air, and white cracks appeared. The rough sea calmed down instantly. On a desert island, Yulo and Shiki's Conqueror's haki have a crazy confrontation. The golden air current and the black air current split the entire island into 2. From the perspective of watching the battle, the scene is spectacular and majestic. His Conqueror's haki seems to have become stronger. Kaido narrowed his pupils and muttered to himself, it was Yulo he was talking about. Having experienced Yulo's Conqueror's haki personally, Kaido can be sure that it is a bit stronger than the level that suppressed him half a month ago. Yulo and Shiki at Conqueror's haki collision center are evenly matched. He directly released Conqueror's haki and slashed continuously. The 2 people have flexible bodies, constantly changing positions as they move. The sword energy slashed and fired, destroying the already dilapidated island. The sound of Jin Ge rang in the ears of many pirates watching the battle. At this moment, they could no longer see Yulo and Shiki. Even captain-level pirates could only vaguely observe that two lightning bolts were constantly colliding over the desert island. Only Rocks, Newgate and others can clearly observe the specific battle situation. "Well, Yulo, you have become stronger again," Shiki said in a deep voice during the battle. His face was extremely solemn. This kind of battle was not an ordinary sparring match. Only by actually fighting Yulo can you feel the pressure of fighting Yulo. This kind of huge pressure is several times stronger than when watching a game. Isn't this normal? What, are you scared? Yulo raised the corners of his lips and said something particularly provocative. It's really unpleasant to fight with your boy. Golden Lion's face turned dark and he snorted coldly. I, Golden Lion Shiki, will be afraid of you. I can't help but praise you. He looks pretty low-key on weekdays, but why is he so arrogant when he gets into a fight? He wanted to beat Yulo violently, but he just thought about it. Lion Majesty, Earth Coiling. Conquerors and swordsmanship are evenly matched, and it's hard to tell the winner. Shiki uses the Lion Fruit ability again. This time, the ground on the desert island surged one after another, and countless lion heads rose into the sky. As Yulo kept swinging the black sword, green fire surged out from under his feet and turned into pillars of fire. The cyan fire pillar collided with the lion's head. Boom. 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 The deserted island shook and the air trembled. The air was flowing wildly across the island. The seawater nearby kept surging. The airflow generated by this attack was extremely hot. Everyone on the pirate ship was sweating from the hot air. Well, Yulo is really too strong. I must have a child with him. Charlotte Linlin watched the battle on the island, not even eating the dessert cake, and looked at Yulo in surprise. Witnessing Yulo's fighting prowess with your own eyes was far more shocking than reading a newspaper. It had only been so long before he had become so strong. Presumably, the child born to Yulo will have a bright future. Linlin, you have a beautiful idea. Can you beat Yulo? When Newgate heard this, he couldn't help but said that he was also helping Yulo break Charlotte Linlin's fantasy. HMPH. I will succeed sooner or later. Charlotte Linlin was immediately unhappy. She snorted coldly and stopped talking. There was no way she could defeat Yulo now. It was really hard for her to do so. Ochaku and Kaido stood aside, silent from beginning to end, but their thoughts were active in their hearts. From the beginning of the war until now, the fire, swordsmanship, and conqueror's hockey that Yulo has shown are extremely powerful. If it were them, they wouldn't be able to stop it. The two of them knew clearly in their hearts that they couldn't stop it, but they just didn't want to admit it. Ochaku and Kaido, who are also experienced in many battles, can see that Yulo and Shiki on the field have not yet exploded at full strength. Ochaku wants to find revenge and prove that he is better than Yulo, while Kaido thinks that Yulo is not worthy of the position of cadre and wants to replace him. Now it seems that it is really ridiculous. Since Yulo began to show his strength, the two of them have been measuring the gap between themselves and Yulo in their hearts. The scary thing is that they found that this gap is getting wider and wider. They feel that hope is getting further and further away from them. As for the other cadres, John, Silver Axe and others who had seen the news but had never seen Yulo's strength with their own eyes, their faces were full of surprise, even dumbfounded. This kind of strength has undoubtedly surpassed them. Yulo can currently draw with Shiki, which at least proves that among the cadres, his strength is second only to Newgate. As for Captain Rocks, that's not included. While shocked, the faces of John and others darkened. Rocks Pirate is a place where strength is the key to everything. For someone like Rocks who wants to overthrow the world government, what he needs is someone with strong combat power. Whitebeard Newgate is an example, as a cadre whose strength is second only to Captain Rocks. Rocks has nothing to do with his affairs, as long as he can help when needed. Even so, his status is slightly higher than them. I originally thought that Yulo was at best equal to them. But looking at this trend, this is like Newgate, stepping on their heads. As a result, their status within the pirate group will drop again, and the benefits they can share may be even less. Everyone watching the battle has their own thoughts. But the battle on the island was intensifying. Yulo finally used his signature pillar of fire to smash countless lion heads. More than a dozen fire pillars touched the ground and dispersed, and a large amount of green fire swept across the desert island. Shiki's eyes flashed, and the lion fruit ability was activated. Lion Majesty, Fire Earth Coiling. Shiki shouted, and Sakuraju and Kumu pointed at Yulo. The next moment, a funny scene appeared. After Shiki made his move, there was no movement on the field. 6 dots seemed to appear in the sky, and then a crow flew by. Huh. What's going on? Opposite him, Yulo also looked confused, with question marks hanging over his head. Shiki, the person involved, blushed and wanted to crawl into the cracks of the ground. Mistake, this is embarrassing. Ahem, do it again. Lion Majesty, fire earth coiling. Shiki adjusted his state, pointed both swords, and activated the lion fruit ability with all his strength. But still. This time it was Shiki's turn to ask questions. What's going on? Gu la la la, Shiki is here to be funny. Nugate, who was watching the battle, leaned on Kong Yunki and burst into laughter. Ochaku and Kaido, who were serious from beginning to end, were almost bowed down by Shiki's sexy moves. Even Rox, who always looked majestic, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. How is this going? Shiki-sama, are you going to admit defeat? Shish. Don't talk nonsense, this is Shiki-sama's tactic. Yeah. Why didn't I expect that? You see, Yulo-sama is confused. This must be Shiki-sama's strategy successful. Some pirates who didn't know what was going on began to make up their minds. Shiki immediately realized the problem, his face turned red and he cursed. Damn it, boy Yulo, you can't control your flames. In order to turn over the story quickly, Shiki charged forward ferociously with anger. When Yulo heard this, he suddenly realized that Shiki had just tried to use Lion Fruit's ability to control Qinglian's inner fire. However, those with Lion Fruit abilities can only control inanimate objects outside themselves. Sorry, Qinglian Earth Heartfire is not an inanimate body. Even if it is only fused with a trace of its origin, Yulo's Qinglian Earth Core Fire still has vitality. This made Yulo dumbfounded. The atmosphere of a passionate duel became so weird. Looking at the charging Shiki, Yulo adjusted his mentality and faced him again. Shiki's face was burning hot. He wanted to decide the winner quickly and then go back to his room and not go out for a month. Armament hockey is covered, Sakura Ju and Deadwood shine with a black edge. Lion, slash wave. Shiki was moving quickly and slashed at Yulo. A huge golden crescent-shaped slash rushed towards Yulo. This slash was stronger than before, and it passed through the air, causing a wailing sound. The black knife in Yulo's hand swept out, directly cutting off Shiki's slash wave. Boom. Shiki's slash wave was unsustainable and exploded, turning into a small rain of swords and falling down. Try this trick of mine. Lion, Thousand Slice Valley. The angry Shiki was eager to defeat Yulo, and slashed out with sword energy one after another. Each one is more terrifying than slash wave, and the number is even more densely packed. The countless golden sword energy was terrifying, causing the pirates watching the battle to scream. Since the distance between the two was already very close, Thousand Slice Valley swallowed Yulo the moment it slashed out. 360 troubled winds. Yulo's soft drink sounded, and a storm of sword energy rose into the sky where he was. He directly dispersed the countless sword energies close to him, and then attacked Shiki in front of him. Boom. 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 The airflow caused by the sword energy storm rolled up, kicked up a burst of sand and dust, and enveloped Shiki. Shiki was so blown away that he almost couldn't open his eyes. Fortunately, observation hockey was not a decoration. He crossed Sakura Ju and Deadwood, firmly blocking the oncoming sword energy storm. At this point in the battle, a thin layer of sweat broke out on both of their foreheads. This kid is really not that easy to deal with. Shiki panted slightly and murmured something. Although Shiki appeared confident, he knew in his heart that it would not be easy to defeat Yulo. On the contrary, Yulo is sure of victory. When the sword energy storm stirred up sand and dust, Yulo did not wait and stepped on the moonwalk and plunged in. Shiki gently wiped away the fine sweat, and the next moment, observation hockey felt that a slash was coming from in front of him. Subconsciously and reacting quickly, Shiki used the lion fruit ability to soar upward into the sky. A sword energy flew out of the sand and dust, passing under Shiki's feet, and the sand and dust were separated. Yulo's figure appeared from the crack and saw Shiki flying high into the sky. He didn't hesitate, Qinglian's heartfire spurted out. Strong airflow blows the dust away. His whole body was about to turn into a stream of fire and chase after Shiki. But then, the scattered dust gathered into 8 lion heads. Yulo was bitten from all directions, little tricks. Yulo snorted coldly, but his speed did not slow down. The black sword energy in his hand condensed, and then the blade shook slightly. 8 rays of sword energy shot out like meteors and hit 8 lion heads. But Shiki is not a vegetarian either, under his control. The broken lion's head immediately came back together. The power was no weaker than before. Shiki, who was in the sky, seized the opportunity and waved the Sakura 10 and Deadwood in his hands. Lion, Thousand Slice Valley. More than a dozen sword chi slashed out, and the group of sword chi that covered the sky and sun shrouded down towards Yulo. Facing the ferocious attack from above and below, Yulo's thoughts were racing with lightning. Shiki seems to be really determined to defeat himself. This offensive is not over yet. Shiki couldn't win anyway, so instead of fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, it was better to end the fight as soon as possible. Yulo's thoughts reached this point and he decided to make a quick decision. The next moment, his breath surged. Just when the sword energy and the lion were close at hand, Yulo's figure disappeared. Razor. Among the 6 types of taijutsu, it is a combination of moonwalk and shaving. Yulo turned into a meteor, shot out from the gap between attacks, and then streaked across the sky. Yulo's speed became faster, bringing out a black trail and appearing in front of Shiki in an instant. This Ise, Yulo's movement made Shiki lose consciousness for a moment. 6 forms. Immediately, Shiki reacted. He had frequent encounters with Zephyr and others, so he recognized them all at once. However, before Shiki could be shocked, what he saw, heard, and felt made him tense up. Yulo's movements soaring into the sky did not stop. A 180-degree backflip in front of Shiki, Tempest Kick, Ballet. The right calf was covered by armament hockey, and with the power of somersault, he slashed it from top to bottom. In a hurry, Shiki Sakura crossed the 10 dead trees to resist. Clang. A huge slash struck the blade. Shiki was pushed down by the strong force, and it took him a while to stop himself. Good guy, this is what you said, a slight improvement in physical skills. Shiki's hands trembled slightly, and the corners of his mouth twitched on his solemn face. How could he not recognize it? This was clearly an advanced technique in the 6 styles of taijutsu. Even in Marine, there are only a few people who have mastered it. Is this the 6th form? John, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but exclaimed. He often interacts with Marine, and he knows a thing or two about 6 styles. However, it is far less powerful than Yulo's display. To be precise, this is the advanced application technique of the 6 styles. Silver Axe on the side was a little shocked and said in a solemn tone. In the past, he studied the 6 postures for a while in order to practice physical skills. However, after initially mastering it, he stopped practicing. Because he found that the improvement of the 6 movements was very slow, and the only way to achieve great success was through repeated practice. Yulo has never used this physical technique before. Could it be that he only mastered it recently? Silver Axe thought of Yulo's first battle with Marine, which was the battle with Zephyr when he snatched the golden center of the sky a few days ago. And Zephyr happens to be a master of the 6th form of Grandmaster. Suddenly, his eyes widened and he didn't dare to think about it anymore. After all, it's really unbelievable. Silver Axe's words surprised everyone. They realized then that they had underestimated Yulo until now. It's too hidden. The cadre Mr. .5 sighed with emotion and stopped talking when he saw no reaction from the crowd. Ochaku and Kaido were shocked and felt a lot of pressure at the same time. The road beyond Yulo seems to have no end in sight. Gu la la la, Yulo is going to use his full strength. Let's see how that guy Shiki responds. Whitebeard Newgate was a little gloating, as if he really wanted to see Shiki get beaten up. Faced with Shiki's scolding, Yulo turned a deaf ear. Now, he just wants to end the battle quickly. The body flashed again and rushed towards Shiki below. The black knife in his hand was tilted in front of him and slashed out fiercely. Jaw dragon hunting. The violent sword energy was domineering and fierce, turning into a long black sword energy dragon. Roar. The black dragon roared with terrifying force and lunged toward Shiki. No, it's too late. Shiki managed to stabilize his body and looked at the sword chi black dragon in front of him with a heavy expression on his face. Now, he has no time to fight back or dodge. If this blow hits the body, he will definitely lose. Also talk about making Yulo his vice captain. Shiki, will never lose. At this thought, Shiki roared angrily, and his aura reached its peak. Armament hockey urged it with all his strength, covering his entire body in an instant. Sakura Ju and Kumu flashed black edges, and once again crossed in front of them to resist. Kang. The sword energy black dragon instantly engulfed Shiki. As Shiki fell downwards, a large crater was created in the ground. The sword energy dissipated, revealing Shiki's figure. As expected of Yulo, he has endless tricks. Shiki took a breath and sighed. The whole person did not look embarrassed, but the tiger's mouth holding the two swords was shattered by the huge force, and a few drops of blood fell to the ground. In order to preserve his fighting power, Shiki tried his best to protect his body. However, his hands were numb, and Sakuraju and Kumu were still trembling slightly. Yulo slowly fell down, looked at Shiki and said, "Shiki, how does this move feel?" He wanted Shiki to give up and continue fighting, but it was really a matter of life and death. This is just a gambling battle between friends, there is no need to go all out. Boy Yulo, I have to admit that this move is indeed very powerful. Shiki looked solemnly and said in a deep voice. But immediately, the words changed, but I'm still far from winning. Shiki took a deep breath, with fighting spirit burning in his chest, and roared out in a hoarse voice. How could it be worth his attention if he could defeat Yulo so easily? Golden Lion Shiki, for his own ambition, has long been prepared to fight tooth and nail. Gu la la la, Shiki is bleeding. Well done, Yulo. Newgate, who had been watching the battle, laughed, with a hint of excitement in his voice. It's been a long time since he beat Shiki violently, and now seeing Yulo making Shiki red, he felt a sense of relief. What? Master Shiki is injured? No way, Master Yulo is so strong. Newgate's voice resounded throughout the audience, and the pirates who couldn't see the specific battle situation went crazy. One by one couldn't help but exclaimed with shocked expressions. Then began a lot of discussion and speculation about who would win in the end. At this time, the ruined desert island. Shiki's sonorous and powerful voice made Yulo a little stunned. Why are you getting braver with each fight? But seeing Shiki's determined look, I realized it. Isn't this the will of the strong? This is the attitude that a strong person should have. This is not only a duel between him and Shiki, but also a contest between the strong. In this case, showing true strength is the respect for Shiki. I believe that no matter what the result is, Shiki will be convinced. Ha 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 ha, Shiki, you are a worthy opponent. Next, I will make you convinced that you have lost. Yulo looked up to the sky and laughed. At this moment, his thoughts were clear, and there was only one word in his heart, and that was, fight. In his mind, some of the problems that had troubled Yulo before were solved at this moment. Yulo looked solemn and put the black knife back into its sheath. He stood there, his aura becoming more and more astonishing. At this time, Shiki had recovered, holding knives in both hands and staring at Yulo in front of him. Yulo wasn't surprised when he received the sheath. As a great swordsman, he could vaguely sense the color of his experience. Yulo was accumulating an astonishing sword intent all over his body. This sword energy continued to rise, and even the black sword in the sheath began to buzz. What kind of monster is this boy Yulo? Shiki's face was heavy and his breathing became rapid. He knew he had to take action immediately. If Yulo is allowed to charge up, it will pose a great threat to him. Because now, that obscure sword intention made him feel palpitated. After making up his mind, Shiki took action decisively. Lion/wave. The golden sword energy almost condensed into substance. It turned into a golden sword light and went straight towards Yulo, who was motionless. Yulo looked at the incoming sword energy, his expression calm and unwavering. He slowly grasped the handle of the knife, his eyes filled with shocking sword intent. The next moment, an earth-shattering sword intent rose from Yulo's body and shot straight into the sky. The clouds in the sky exploded, and an Uzumaki formed under the strong sword intent. There's an Uzumaki in the sky. What kind of move is this? Oh my god, just the sword intention is so powerful. This scene brought a strong visual shock, and some swordsmen and pirates were stunned. Wait. Where is Master Yulo? Why is Lord Yulo missing? Just when everyone was paying attention to the sky, someone suddenly screamed loudly. Everyone hurriedly averted their eyes, and what they saw was unbelievable. In sight, Yulo disappeared. Only a black stream of light caught people's attention. This black light is as fast as lightning and shoots straight towards Golden Lion Shiki. The golden sword light was directly penetrated. The speed of the black lightning did not slow down, and it arrived in front of Shiki in an instant. Shiki's eyes were as wide as two brass bells. At this moment, Shiki has only one thought in his mind. Quick. So fast, faster than ever. It wasn't that Shiki couldn't resist in a hurry. But truly, when prepared, in Shiki's perception, this black lightning is Yulo. However, his body showed no response. Kang. There was a sound in his ears. It was the sound of a sword being drawn. Black lightning instantly passed through Golden Lion Shiki. Finally stopped near the shore. Yulo's figure appeared, as well as a plain voice. Godly speed. Drawing the sword technique. In this sea, there is only Yulo's voice. The pirates who were watching the battle had dull eyes and were already dumbfounded. Among the cadres, except Newgate, the same is true for everyone else. In their observation hockey perception, they did not see Yulo's specific actions clearly. Only feeling a sword intent reaching the sky, Yulo turned into black lightning and disappeared. But they knew that this was definitely an attack move. The art of drawing. The sword. Ochiku's face was pale, he was covered in cold sweat, and he kept mumbling. If this move were to draw the sword, if it were him, he would probably be seriously injured even if it were not death. This is nothing but shame. Doesn't he enjoy living a good life? Good swordsmanship. Rox, who was at the front, finally spoke. 2 good words in a row, with full appreciation for Yulo. Newgate, what do you think of Yulo's sword drawing skills? Rox's voice suddenly sounded, and everyone woke up. If it were me, I'd probably be injured too. Newgate pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice. The eyes of all the cadres were focused. It seemed that even Newgate would not be intact after this move. Hey, look. The sky is cracked, the sea is cracked, and the desert island is cracked. Oh my god, this was done by a human. Among the pirates, some were so frightened that they sat down, pointed in the distance and shouted in horror. All the pirates looked at it and took a breath. It was the most spectacular scene they had ever seen. In the sky, the endless clouds parted in the middle. It was as if a door to heaven had opened. On the sea, a ravine stretches for thousands of meters, with no end as far as the eye can see, and it has not closed for a long time. Fish kept coming to the surface, and their blood dyed the seawater red, like a sea of a ghostly blood. On the deserted island, with the place where Yulo passed through as the center line, the entire land is slowly splitting apart. Yulo turned around and looked at Shiki standing motionless in the distance. The black knife in his hand was stained with blood. Tick, tick. Blood fell down the tip of the knife. Shiki felt like a world away from what had just happened. However, severe pain came from the chest. He instantly realized that he was injured. Plop. Suddenly, Shiki knelt down on one knee, holding Sakuraju and Kutegi in his hands. What a fast swordsmanship. What a sharp sword spirit. Shiki gasped. A look of shock finally flashed across his solemn face. He touched the scar on his chest with his hand, feeling the long-lost pain. Regarding Yulo's swordsmanship, Shiki once felt that Yulo's swordsmanship was not weaker than his own. After fighting Yulo, he felt the pressure. However, this sword-drawing technique made Shiki's heart throb for the first time. Because Shiki did not remove armament hockey, the scar was not too deep, just a cut on the flesh. Even so, it should not be underestimated. You must know that his armament hockey has reached an advanced level of strength. Under the double defense of hardening and entangling, Yulo's swordsmanship is still able to break through the armor and injure him. Shiki's swordsmanship is not absolutely sure that he can break through the hardening and entanglement of high-level weapons. One can imagine how sharp this sword-drawing technique is. Shiki, who was kneeling on one knee, felt his aura weaken a bit. Blood dripped slowly from the scar on his chest. Yulo's swordsmanship made him feel briefly throbbing. But it was soon replaced by a stronger fighting spirit. Jia ha ha ha, Yulo boy, you are so cruel. If I hadn't disarmed myself, I might have died at your hands. Shiki put away Sakuraju and Kume who were leaning on him and stood up steadily. When he stood up, the expression on his face gradually turned ferocious. After a few seconds, he laughed ferociously. After Shiki stood up, the scar on his chest appeared in front of everyone. Master Shiki, his chest was slashed. There was a lot of blood and there were so many scars. Isn't that right? Master Yulo's swordsmanship can break through the armor color. Except for Rox and the other cadres, everyone found it incredible. There is no doubt that the sword-drawing technique is so fast that they think Shiki cannot catch it. But he didn't expect that the sharpness of the sword-drawing technique could break through the high-level armed colors. On Shiki's chest, a scar was left from his left shoulder to his right abdomen. That's the feeling. Shiki glanced at the wound on his chest and murmured to himself. It looks terrifying and ferocious on the outside, but it's just flesh and blood wounds. The severe pain had no effect on Shiki. Instead, it made him miss this long-lost feeling. Shiki is so powerful now that few people on the sea can hurt him. But he also became a strong man step by step from a weak one. When he was weak, injuries like this were commonplace. Now feeling the pain again has completely aroused Shiki's strong heart. Yulo stared at Golden Lion Shiki with his back turned to him, slightly surprised. After all, I still underestimated Shiki. I originally thought that Shiki could be seriously injured. Unexpectedly, it only caused a flesh and blood wound. It was right to think about it. In the future, when entering Marineford, Sengoku and Garp would need to join forces to capture the man. How could he be defeated so easily? If you are really dead, I will bury you with my own hands, Yulo said calmly. As an opponent, Yulo respects Shiki. Trust Shiki, too. Yulo's response made Shiki's mouth twitch. Yulo in battle is really annoying. Shiki turned around and faced Yulo in the distance. Yulo, you are the most talented person I have ever seen. Strength improvement is as easy as drinking water for you. But I, Shiki, am not a freeloader, so I will let you experience my progress. Shiki said with a ferocious smile, the fighting spirit in his eyes becoming fierce. The momentum in him rose again, as if he was coming back from the ashes of death. Instantly broke the previous peak and reached a new height. Oh, is it so? Then let me see it. Yulo raised his eyebrows when he heard this, looking a little surprised. But his eyes immediately became serious. Shiki talks about progress, but I'm afraid it's not that simple. After reaching Shiki's level of strength, it is not easy to improve. No matter which aspect of progress it is, the combat power will be greatly improved. Sure enough, even he was confident of defeating Shiki. The process is also very difficult. Shiki moved, and after being injured by Yulo, launched another offensive. His whole body was covered with high-level armament haki, and Sakura's Juku were both hardened and entangled. In Yulo's perception, the armament haki on Shiki seems to have become more flexible. It gave him an indescribable feeling. Did armament haki become stronger? Yulo muttered, doubt in his tone. Although Shiki is injured, this injury will not have any impact on him. Rox spoke in a rare move, seemingly explaining to the many pirates. He also knows Shiki relatively well, so this is not enough to make Shiki lose his fighting power. The decisive match between the two may have to wait a little longer. In my perception, Shiki has become stronger. Whitebeard Newgate said solemnly, he was very confident about his observation haki. Upon hearing this, Rox raised the corners of his mouth and remained silent. He was also looking forward to this battle. Lion/wave. Shiki, who broke through the peak, crossed his swords and slashed out 2 sword energy. The sword energy turned into a black light, instantly crossing the distance and coming to Yulo. Although the speed is not as fast as Yulo's sword drawing technique, it is much faster than Shiki's slash wave before. Even the power became more fierce, and Yulo felt a powerful impact coming towards his face. The most important thing is that slash wave is golden, but the one in front of you is pitch black. The same jet black as armament haki. Yulo didn't have time to think too much. He raised his hand and slashed out 2 sword energy to meet him. The black slash wave was blown away before it even touched it. Yulo quickly blocked the black knife in front of him, and armament haki was fully covered. Holding the black slash wave hard, clang. However, there was a powerful impact. Yulo staggered back 7 or 8 steps. He looked at Shiki in surprise. This sword energy was very powerful. No, it's more armament haki than sword energy. Thinking of his slash just now, the black slash wave was shattered before it even touched it. When he resisted with his sword, he felt the strong aura of armament haki. Display your armed colors. Yulo's face became serious. This is an advanced application technique, and its role in combat cannot be underestimated. Even Luffy, the destined son, had to learn humiliatingly. Release the armed color and turn it into substantial attack and defense. It hits enemies with a powerful impact and can also form a protective wall to defend against invisible attacks. In Summit War, the 3 admirals deflected Newgate's seismic wave and used the weapon color outward. This scene appeared in front of all the cadres. This Issa, the mole, Mr. 5, exclaimed with an expression of disbelief. It was a familiar scene, he had seen it in Marine Admiral before. Rox, who was at the front, smiled and said with great care, show off your weapons. This is an advanced technique for using weapon colors and has nothing to do with Haki's strength. Seeing that Rox stopped talking, Newgate took over and explained. As one of the few people in Rock's Pirate who has mastered the weapon color exposure, he couldn't be more clear about it. Silver Axe, Charlotte Linlin and others couldn't help but feel anxious. They have also mastered hardening and entangling, but they have been unable to understand the release. Gu-la-la-la. Shiki is hiding very deep. It depends on how Yulo boy handles it. Newgate laughed expectantly and said a rare word of approval for Shiki. He also mastered the weapon color release a few days before Yulo joined Rock's Pirate. Judging from Shiki's condition, it's just a little worse than him.